What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Rewind Room. I am so happy to be here after what feels like such a long time since we last did our last episode on the movie theaters. I think that's wow, it feels like it's been a lot longer since we've been in the studio recording. Not that we're in an actual studio, we're in our own homes, but basically talking to each other face to face doing an episode. Welcome back to Rewind Room, the podcast where we go back in time and we look at all the things that made us who we are, from movies to music to video games, which is our topic today. My name is John, and I am with my awesome co-host and wonderful best friend, Ramona Mejia. How you
What
doing?
is up, guys? I hope you guys had a really great holiday weekend. I know we did for sure. We just needed a little break, but we're back, guys.
Wow, if it really feels like it's been a little bit longer since we've done one of these, for a while there, it felt like, oh, we're meeting every so often, but I don't know
Yeah.
about you. It feels like it really feels like time has really passed.
I know. Can you believe it? We're already on our seventh episode. If you count part two of episode three, technically eighth.
Exactly. Yeah. If you count all of those parts, we're technically 8 episodes in, but seven if you're counting by month. Yeah, it's pretty wild. Yeah. How was your last couple of weeks, my friend? How was your Fourth of July weekend?
Pretty busy. I've been with family. I've been
Nice.
I started a business earlier this year, so I've been trying to get some momentum on that,
Oh
I'm
wow.
enjoying
Yeah.
my personal life too, so I can't really complain personally right now. I've been blessed. How about yourself, my friend?
I'm doing good. This last week was interesting. Fourth of July was celebrating with family and everyone was really cool. All we did really was just have some steaks and we had a dinner together and it was a lot of fun. And
That sounds
I
delicious.
yeah, no, it was really good. I mean, we had I don't know if you ever heard of this company before, Butcher Box. They're kind of like a more like natural type of meat is kind of
Oh,
what they
okay.
do. So it's kind of like we have those. If you haven't tried it, guys, go try some. I mean, it's all natural meat. It's grass fed, I believe, and there's no added preservatives or antibiotics in the meat. So you're getting what you pay for. It's really good stuff. And to tell you the truth, yeah, they might look small, but those little things fill you up.
Yeah.
Yeah, not
Now
even
you're making
joking.
me hungry.
Well, then go buy some then.
I
Like,
know, I know. Here, let's
exactly.
cancel the episode. I'm gonna go buy some hot dogs, guys.
There you go. Yeah. I actually don't know if they have hot dogs. I'm sure they do.
Oh,
I've
okay.
just never ordered hot dogs, but they have wings, they have chicken,
Gotcha,
they got
gotcha.
steak, hamburger, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, let's
So
get some burgers in.
for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, go check them out. Not sponsored, obviously. I wish they were, but hey,
One day, one
if
day.
you're listening, hey, I mean, we'll take a sponsorship if you guys are willing, but I mean,
Yes.
obviously, it's one of those things. But no, it's really good. It's really good to be back. Today we're going to be going into the subject of video game madness. Now, you guys are probably wondering what exactly are we talking about? Because video game madness can mean a million different things, but really what we're talking about is the consoles, the video games, the computer games, all those things that basically made us kind of, I don't want to say made us who we are, but the games that we played when we were growing up and the games that we experienced growing up and the different consoles and the experiences around that, because video games is much more than to us than just sitting on your couch with a little controller looking at your screen. I mean, there's so much more connected with this. There's midnight releases, there's the next generation of console, there's the next gaming device. It's always evolving the market. And I feel like especially even today, a lot of that has been, I don't want to say taken from us, but has been replaced by the advent of PC gaming, digital downloads, and a lot more stuff that's not as much hands-on or transparent, if that makes sense. So without further ado, my friend, I will go ahead and let you take it away and get us into this.
John and I have been playing video games ever since we were tiny little kids. So, I mean, this is obviously huge for us. I mean, yes, we live a life based around movies as well, but it's super nice to be able to reflect on the video games that not only made us, but also influenced what we're currently playing too.
Yeah.
And, grab your popcorn or grab your water, grab your snacks,
Grab your
and get
steak.
yeah, grab your steak or hot dogs or whatever you have, but get comfy because we're going to go back to the early days of video gaming
Oh
and
yeah.
try to think of 80s and 90s, but even before that too. But before we get started, I have a quick question for you, John.
Yeah, what
And
up?
I know we've talked about this in the past, but
Yeah.
let's just definitely reiterate these things so that
Yeah, sure.
people keep getting to know us, and that's
Yeah.
so that they get to know
What's
us.
up? Yeah, what's up?
Um, what console got you into gaming? I'm curious.
Ooh, that's a good question. No, that's a really good one. To tell you the truth, gaming was something that came later in my life. And
Okay.
what I mean by that is I was always very much a movie guy. I mean, I played games on the computer, obviously.
Yeah.
I had those like, hooked on phonics games. I had
Oh my
those
gosh, I loved those.
yeah, I had those games.
Did you have clue finders?
I don't think I had Clue Finders, no.
Okay.
But I had like the Arthur games, so like Arthur's
Oh
first and
yeah.
second grade. A lot of education-based games, I
Gotcha,
guess, is
gotcha.
what formed my youth. But I'm also, for those of you who may not know, I am also an avid baseball fan as well.
Woot
One
woot.
of these days we'll have to talk about that more in depth. But baseball is really one of the only sports I can fully comprehend and talk about, really. I mean, like football I like to watch, but that's just more of a casual view, whereas baseball I can delve a little bit deeper, and baseball's been a part of my life ever since I was a very little kid. So I had a lot of games on the computers. Like I had High Heat Baseball for the PC.
Ooh,
I
okay, very
also
cool.
had MLB. I think it was 2004, 2005, before the show was a thing. Um, I had those kind of games on the computer and I would play those after school and not. But when we talk about console, I think it was the Nintendo Wii, to be honest with you, because
The Nintendo Wii.
that was the very first console I ever owned, and that was the most fun I ever had playing
Do you
video
still
games.
own a Nintendo Wii?
Yeah, it's actually sitting right over here. I'm not even joking. The Wii
Woo!
that I've had since I was, oh gosh, that came out what, 2007, I think?
Yeah, 2006, 2007, yeah.
2006, 2007. So I was around 9 or 10 when I got the Wii.
Oh my
I think I
gosh.
got it maybe. I don't think I got it on its launch though. I think I got it after
Okay.
its launch because I remember I had a neighbor and when I go to play at their house, they had a Wii, and
Mhm.
that's where I got introduced to games like Wii Sports and Wii Play and
Mhm.
those kind of games, and then
Oh yeah.
it wasn't until a little bit later I got introduced to Mario Kart, and then that's when the
Oh
competition
yeah.
really began. So it was definitely probably the Wii, and then also the other console I would say too is probably the PlayStation 2 because I got one not long after. The PlayStation 2 was probably, in my opinion, one of the greatest consoles that was ever released, and a lot of people agree to that because to this
Mhm.
day, and we're going to talk about this, the PlayStation 2 is the highest selling console of all time.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Think of the PS5, the Xbox One, the Nintendo Switch. The fact that they have nothing on the numbers of the PS2 still blows my mind.
It's wild, and we're definitely going to get into that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. But thank you so much for answering that question. I'll definitely get into some of my introductions a little bit later on into the podcast. But that's just a starting point that I wanted to touch upon.
No, great
But
question.
so we're going to be talking about early consoles, and you might be thinking, depending on how old you are, early console, okay, like Game Boy, blah blah. Blah. No, we're going to go all the way back to the 1970s. And
That's
we're going to be
crazy.
talking, yeah, we're going to be talking some history. So for you history buffs, we're definitely going to be tickling your video game fancy if you have that. And some of the early consoles we're going to be talking about are like the Atari, the Nintendo NES, Sega 1000, and basically all of the games that created this environment for just technological growth and what they did for the gaming world. Do you want to start off with the first console, my friend?
I'd be glad to. So, the very first console that was ever released, at least for the home market, video gaming goes back very far. You know, the idea of being able to play a game on a digital system or on a screen, and you're able to control the action has been something that's been toyed with for a while, you know. And obviously before that, gaming was more in the form of either board games or making up your own games playing outside, you know. And I think that was a big part of, you know, the baby boomer generation, was the fact of the matter that, you know, everything was very transparent. You know, everything was very hands on. You know, you got a family together and you played board games, you know. Or you, when you were outside, you played games like tag or all those types of things. But then all of a
Hmm.
sudden, as time goes on, people start inventing games that you can possibly play on your television, to where you have a screen and you have the whole idea of being able to control the action with yourself, basically, instead of, you know, having a movie that's written and doing the action for you. You do it yourself and control the story, basically, in a sense. And so the very first game console was the Magnavox Odyssey, which was released in 1972 and developed by Ralph Baer and his team at Sanders Associates. And it was groundbreaking due to the fact that it paved the way for the modern video game system. So that was the first time you could take a console home and you could plug it into your TV and you could play a game on your television. So that was a big
Hmm.
thing, because now it's kind of like, okay, you want entertainment and you want games and you want something fun and transparent, you can have that all in one.
Yeah,
And
precisely.
exactly. And I don't really know a whole lot about the games that were developed for, because there's not a whole lot about this console I was able to find,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But it was big. I mean, the fact of the matter that it gave the idea that people could have games on their television was a huge thing, because now it's kind of like, I don't need a movie, I don't need all these things to keep me entertained. I can grab a joystick, which I'm assuming is what it was,
Hmm.
and I
Yeah.
can have a lot of fun, and I can play a game on a television, and I can
Yeah.
control the action.
It was back in 1972 too, so that's what, well over, like, 40, 45 years ago, and
Yeah.
just to think how small of amount of time has passed, or how little, excuse me, has passed, that now we're in, virtual reality simulations, and now we're even, like, testing, chip implants and things like that. It's crazy the jump that happens with just a couple of decades because, mind you, the Magnavox Odyssey, again, back in 1972, it didn't have any sound and it had very basic and minimal graphics.
Mm.
Um, it being so basic, it still inspired later platforms and consoles such as the Atari, which we're
Oh
going to get
yeah.
to, next. But the games that I found that were actually the most popular for the Magnavox Odyssey, mind you, again, very limited graphics and no sound,
Yep.
were games called Baseball,
Baseball.
Interplanetary Voyage, and
Nice.
Invasion. And all of these would, in one way or another, influence the creation of other well-known games that we love, just like Space Invaders, and then even right now, like the MLB games and the
Yeah.
Madden games, the NBA games, the
Hmm.
FIFA games, all of those. Everything we're playing now can pretty much be brought back to its lineage through the Magnavox Odyssey, and I think that's so cool.
That's really awesome. I mean, the fact of the matter that that gave the way for so many games is crazy. And you know, you talk about decades, you know, obviously it's only a few decades, but it's crazy to think that that was over 50 years ago also. So
No,
it's
absolutely.
kind of like, yeah, in terms of decades passing, yeah, it's a short amount of time, but it's crazy to think how much time in those decades has really passed as well, you know. And it's crazy to think that video games have technically been around for over 50 years.
Oh yeah, and every console that we're going to be talking about, there isn't more than like a 10-year gap between them. So
Oh
all
yeah.
of these innovations were happening within like a 2 to 3 year period, A console would come out and then they'd find something or make something better a year or two later. So it's like every couple years you had some sort of technological advancement to the next console.
Oh sure, absolutely.
We don't
It's
really see
wild.
that now though.
No, we don't, unfortunately. I think now, they're trying to crank these things out a little bit more frequently. Unless you're Nintendo. Then that's a little bit different. I mean,
They take their time.
the time gap between the Switch 1 and the Switch 2 is big, but we'll get into that at another time. And obviously, I know many of you are probably going to want to know our thoughts on the Switch 2. Trust me, we'll get there. But
Yeah.
no, you're right. There really isn't that much anymore, and I think the one thing I noticed with each generation of gaming, they're always trying to innovate on something new. They're always trying to find that gap that they missed last time and
Yep.
improve on it the next time. And that's what I appreciate so much about these companies, going back even all the way to Atari and to these. They're always willing to listen to the customers, and that's something that
Hmm.
not every industry does. And
Oh
I
yeah.
think that that's what's really cool about gaming. They don't always do it, because I mean there are still things on consoles that people complain about to this day, but it seems like to the majority of it, they listen to the customers and they're like, okay, we want to hear your input of how can we make this better. So
Yep.
when we do release the next generation or the next model, you're willing to stay with us.
Yeah, Nintendo, out of every company that I've ever owned, well, console owned by companies, obviously, Nintendo is definitely the one that prioritizes consumer likability. And I've never owned a Nintendo console that I didn't like. Whereas other consoles, I'm like, okay, well, this is fine. But Nintendo, it's just like they have it down. They have it down.
Yeah, we're questioning it now for sure, but
The
definitely in the
pricing, at
past,
least, yeah.
yeah, but definitely in the past we've definitely
Hmm.
I can agree Nintendo's been good, Sony's been good, Microsoft's been pretty good,
Yeah.
and so yeah, a lot of things like that, and they definitely, the one thing I notice is they're very consumer friendly. Most video game companies, I mean, obviously everybody has their issues, but
Hmm.
for the most part, I've seen that most of these companies try to be as consumer friendly as they can. So, after the Magnavox, I believe the next big console that would come out would probably be the Atari.
So originally it was called the Atari Video Computer System, and then they basically rebranded.
Hmm.
And in 1977, they released the Atari 2600, and it's pretty much
Oh,
the
the
same console.
2600. Hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same console, but just marketing purposes, they rebranded it, and the 2600, the like technically the second console is what really popularized the at-home console gaming and
Yeah.
standardized the cartridge format.
Yeah.
For those of you who are not familiar or who are only into digital downloads, we used to get games in these plastic cartridges, and there was
Oh yeah.
an opening at the bottom that would always gather dust. So if you
Oh, it
see
sucked.
yeah, yeah. So if there are countless memes of millennials and
Mhm.
whatnot blowing through the cartridge just to get the
Mhm.
game to work. And some of those games included Space Invaders, a very popular game called Pitfall, and Frogger and Pac-Man. And I think out of all of those, I would say Pac-Man is still one of the biggest games ever when it came to
Oh yeah.
where it spawned, really.
Hmm. Well, the cool thing about the Atari was, and this is coming from somebody who's very sparingly played an Atari. The one cool thing about Atari was, the games may have seemed basic, but really it was a game changer, because now it was popularizing the idea. Because it's like Magnavox might have started it, but I mean, how many people are going to go buy a Magnavox? Back in the '70s, only the rich kids are probably going to own one of those, if that even, because video gaming
Well,
just
yeah.
wasn't at the top of his game. But when Atari comes out, that's when everybody's like, I gotta have this. I gotta play video games. I want to know what
Hmm.
this trend is. And the 2600 is really what kicked that whole thing off. It's like, yeah, Atari may have started before that, but the 2600 was, I think, when the bandwagon started, really.
Yeah, and I was curious because my
Yeah.
mom was never really into video games, but the
Yeah.
only console she's ever owned in her life was the Atari. She was gifted to it by her parents, I believe, a birthday or Christmas or something like
Interesting. Do you
that.
know what model?
I'm actually not sure that she would know, but I'm assuming it was, like, one of the first ones because she was born
Okay.
in 1972, so she was
Okay.
probably around, like, 10 or 11 when she got the console, so it had to
Okay,
been
that
the
would check.
2600. It had
Oh
to have been
yeah,
the
it probably
2600.
had to have been because I mean the 2600 I think was in the 80s I think when that console came.
77,
77. Oh
77.
my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. And, she said her parents ended up paying about 29.99 for it, and,
That's crazy.
adjusting that to
Yeah,
inflation,
okay,
it's
I gotta hear.
$107 now.
Still though, I would
Still!
much rather pay $107 than like 6 or 700 for a game console. That's insane.
At this point, that price range sort of mimics what people are paying for Mario Kart on the Nintendo Switch too, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. That's what I was
Yeah.
just about to say is that
Mhm.
now that price is being attributed to just games.
Just the games,
Just the
yeah.
little freaking
Mhm.
cartridge.
Mhm.
That is wild.
No, yeah, yeah. So that was a fun fact that I had learned about my mother that
Mhm.
she actually did get to play the
That is
original, and
so cool.
I'm pretty sure it was the 2600. But to think
That's
about the
wild.
pricing and everything like that is wild. Exactly.
Yeah, and the one thing that Atari also allowed for, and this is something that you can't do nowadays, but this is something that I found during my research was um individuals could create their own games and get them sold on Atari's line.
What?
So let me clarify. I'm not saying just any swinging person.
Okay, that's
I'm
fair.
not saying any swinging dude, and that's not what I'm saying at all. Okay. What I mean is that independent developers and such could develop their own games and get them put on the Atari. And that's how you get some of the
Whoa.
most interesting titles because nowadays you have to be with a licensed company, you have to go
Mhm.
through the ESRB, you have to get certified, you have to get all these little steps before you can even start developing a game nowadays.
Okay.
But back then, independent developers could develop games and get them released on Atari. I think even Sega was a part of that for a little while. But that's how you get some of the more interesting titles. And now I do have a question for you, my friend.
All
And
right.
I'm going to pose this to you. I really hope this doesn't get us age range, but you know what? If it does, I don't care at this point. But I'm going to ask you a serious question about a
All right.
video game. And I know a lot of you listening are probably going, I know where you're going with this, John. I'm sorry. I am going there.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of a game called Custer's Revenge?
I have. Was that for the was that for the PC?
That was for the Atari.
That was for the Atari?
That was for the Atari.
No way. You know what? Actually, the only reason I actually recognize that is because you had mentioned it at some point in one of our
Ah,
conversations, but I don't remember anything about that conversation, so I'm relearning it right now.
okay. So the reason that this video slash episode may be E-rated, E for explicit, is because Custer's Revenge is a pornographic game.
What?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And so Atari was the first generation of console to introduce video games for adults.
I can't really imagine it having great graphics.
Oh, it was terrible. It was
Uh,
terrible. And to tell you the truth, the game isn't even that good. It's not something I can stand by, but because it's a part of gaming history, I figured I'd mention it.
yeah,
Basically, the
yeah.
premise of the game, so Custer, we're talking Custer as in General Custer from the Civil or around the Civil War during the Battle of Little Bighorn and all of those type of things. He wasn't really that great of a dude, especially with the stuff he did to Native Americans and such.
Mm,
So that's one of the reasons I don't really care for him, despite the fact that he was a Union general. But it's like, hey man, you did a lot of bad things to my people. I can't stand by you, bro.
for sure, for
But
sure.
basically, this game came out in sometime in the 80s. And the whole thing is you have these darts that are coming down and they're trying to stab you, and your goal your goal is to get to a woman tied up and mate with her.
Whoa, okay. No wonder it's not really,
And that's
widely
how you
talked about.
score the points. This
Oh,
game
that's how
was
you score, literally. Okay.
I know it's terrible.
Wow.
It's terrible. I mean, I think you can piece together what's actually happening, but like, yeah, it's awful. Like, I've never played the game myself, nor do I want to, but I know of it because thank you, Angry Video Game Nerd. I used to watch that guy all the time when I was a kid, and I still watch him to this day. Highly recommend you guys check him out too. He's really cool. James Rolfe is his name, and he goes by so many users. He goes by Cinemassacre for his movies, his horror movie reviews. And his big title is the Angry Video Game Nerd, and he reviews games like these. And he did a whole episode on this, and so that's how I know what this game is. And basically, the way that this game came into existence is because an independent developer was able to create a game and get it put on the Atari. And there's tons of these type of games on the Atari too, which is
Oh,
crazy.
I bet. I bet.
No.
Hence the reason why they sort of restricted it to specific companies that follow certain guidelines. Because can you imagine
Yeah.
what the human imagination can lead to when it comes to games like this, like
Oh,
nowadays with
I don't
VR,
even I don't
things
even
like
want
that?
I don't even want to imagine some of the things
Exactly.
that these people are going to be able to come up with. But the
Mhm.
wild part is that somebody did it for the Atari a
Yep.
long time ago. This game was incredibly controversial. I mean, everyone was outraged from Native American activists to women's rights activists to
Just normal
parents,
people who have
normal
moral
people,
ground.
even me. Even me, as somebody who they probably would try and market this game toward. Yeah, it's
Mm.
disgusting. It's a terrible game. It's not something I want to play, but I only mention it because it's a part of Atari's history.
And I'm assuming you can see gameplay of it. Not that anyone would want to, but
Okay,
if
my
you're
friend. Okay,
curious,
okay, okay, okay.
I'm sure YouTube or
If
something.
you're curious about it, my friend, I'm sure you can find footage of it anywhere.
That's the thing, you can find anything on the internet nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know if YouTube would allow it because obviously of their settings and whatnot, but I'm sure you can find it out there
Oh,
somewhere. You
you
can
know what?
probably, you can
It would
find it
absolutely be
somewhere,
restricted. It would absolutely be restricted
if
actually
even
on YouTube.
allowed.
If even allowed, yeah. Well, because YouTube, the guidelines barely allow for certain themes and content, let alone something that grave, especially given the sensitivity.
If you all are curious, just go look up James Rolfe videos Atari porn. That's
Yeah.
literally the title of the
Oh,
video. And
okay.
you'll find gameplay of all of that kind of stuff. He can explain it far better than I can and that I want to. So go check that out. But the only reason I bring that up is because Atari did allow for independent developers to invent their own games. Now, a lot of people did get some really cool games in there, like you have this, you have skeet ball, you have pool, you have a lot of those kind of things that
Oh yeah.
independent developers were able to pull out. And you just have it's just so cool to see what people are capable of creating.
Absolutely. If it has good taste, if it's in good taste.
Yeah, if it's in good taste, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh,
for
yeah,
sure.
exactly. But no, it's crazy when that there was a time that people could say, "Hey, I have an idea for a game. Okay, if you can develop it, send it to us, and we'll consider putting it on our console."
Oh yeah, yeah. It's truly a marvel that we overlook because we're so used to being, gratified by the newest and coolest thing. We realize the roots and how cool that is. But
Yep.
speaking of roots, we had the Magnavox Odyssey, which
Yes.
came out in '72, and then the Atari that came out in '77. That's only a 5 year gap. But
Yeah.
then the console that followed that actually came out in 1980. So
Yeah.
it's like they didn't even give us time to breathe before they gave us the newest thing.
No.
And that newest thing is called the Intellivision.
The Intellivision. I don't have a lot of knowledge on this one, my friend.
Yeah, to be honest, I had never even heard of it, but
Neither have
apparently
I.
it was created by Mattel in 1980.
Okay.
The console introduced better graphics than both the Atari and the Magnavox, and it had way better sound as well. You actually had little soundtracks and things like that. It featured unique disc-based controllers, so it looks like an Atari with a built-in phone. It's
Oh
really
wow.
weird. It looks really, really weird. And there were games such as Burger Time and Advanced Dungeons and Dragons
Mm.
that were super popular within its own niche little community.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool. That's really crazy. I've never heard of this console before, so this is actually the
Yeah.
first time I'm hearing of it. I don't even have anything about in my notes about it. That's how much I don't know about this console.
No, exactly. And I don't think I've ever heard anyone ever reference it or even say, "Oh, do you remember the Intellivision?"
Hmm.
No. And then right after that, in '82, see, they're really minimizing the time in between each console release. And similar to the Intellivision, we have the ColecoVision. Do you have anything on that?
No, I do not. Again, this is how much I don't know about some of these consoles.
Super underground. Yeah, exactly. Super underground. And it was created in '82, so another 2-year gap, which is not
Oh,
really that much.
wow.
It focused on arcade quality ports for home use, advancing the hardware for its
Oh,
computers.
that's cool.
Yep.
Okay. That's cool.
Oh,
Arcade-like game. That's awesome.
yep.
That basically you can bring the arcade to your home.
Exactly, exactly, without having to pay a quarter every game or 10 cents every game. And
You just pay a
alongside
set price
the
and throw a game in, and there you go.
exactly, it's user friendly, it's also economical. Yeah, I mean, like, it
Yeah,
makes sense as to why they were moving, the industry towards that.
sure.
But then with the ColecoVision alongside it, alongside the Intellivision, the ColecoVision's console was considered, the 2nd generation of video gaming. So,
Wow.
as you can see, the 1st generation started with the Magnavox all the way into the Intellivision, but then the
Yeah.
Coleco is sort of where they drew the line and said, "Okay, you know what? This is a new generation of consoles."
Yeah.
And, that's actually where Donkey Kong and Zaxxon were introduced.
Okay, I had a feeling that was correct because Donkey Kong was an arcade game
Yeah.
originally.
Mhm.
It was not had nothing to do with Nintendo for the longest time,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden, then that's when you start getting, when the NES comes out, that's when they start getting added to that market. But no, that's
Mhm.
crazy to think that Donkey Kong goes back even further than before Nintendo picked him up after its arcade run.
Oh, yeah, and that's a perfect segue that I'll let you obviously, take hold of.
Alrighty, so then we have in the 80s, probably one of the biggest companies comes out, and it's a company that's still around to the day, Nintendo. Nintendo obviously is probably the leading one of the leading names in video gaming to this day, and the biggest console that they come out with is the Nintendo NES.
Mhm.
And that console, holy mackerel, that was that changed the game for a lot of different companies and such, because Atari and a lot of those low graphics, basic gameplay, Nintendo's what took it up to a whole new level. That's when you start getting games like Super Mario Brothers, and you
Mhm.
start getting all of those. And basically, it's wild. The NES was released in 1983. It's crazy to think how far back Nintendo's run goes. They come out of Japan. So, the Japanese market was really what pioneered, if you want to think about it, the modern video game market.
That's a great point. Yeah, that's a
Because
really great
because
point.
obviously then out of that you would get even Sony, which is also out of Japan as well, and then that's when you
Mm.
get the PlayStation. So really Japan is what allowed for gaming to grow in the way that it did. And the system, the NES, was again one that I have not played a whole lot of, but it did change gaming in the way of heightening more the graphics more. You have newer innovative titles,
Mhm.
Super Mario Brothers, and Donkey Kong gets added to that run too, so now they're also a part of Nintendo at this point. Actually, I don't know if he came along with the NES. He might have come a little bit later, but um yeah, it really just depends. But no, NES was a huge console.
Mhm.
I mean, because it changed the way of gaming. It really did.
It did, and it revived the console industry because in the mid '80s or early '80s actually, there was a video game crash. I don't know if you guys knew about this, but in the US,
Mhm.
video gaming nearly collapsed in North America, but
Yeah.
it was revived and, saved, like John said, by Japan. And one of the main reasons why you saw sort of a decline in consumer interest here in the United States was exactly what John was saying. You had low quality games, but also there was an oversaturation of those games. You had 52 baseball games and you
Yeah.
had 52 skiing games, and like there were just it just felt like a repetition. And I feel like Nintendo NES sort of widened the horizons for how we could imagine video games to be. And
Ex-
just to give you guys an idea on the graphics also and how much that changed, it was a strong 8-bit system, and you didn't really get that with consoles like the Atari or the Magnavox because they
Yeah.
didn't rely on heavy graphics. But just so that you guys know how monumental this was at the time, it was pretty much one of the first 8-bit systems.
Yeah.
Nowadays, we're playing with 64-bit systems. So can
Yeah.
you just see how much we've improved when it comes to the visuals that we're intaking?
Oh yeah, I mean that's a big selling point of video games now. The high graphics, the more real the game feels is a big thing. And for the 80s, for 83, that was pretty real feeling. I mean, aside from Super Mario Brothers, you have a lot of original titles now. You have
Hmm.
you have Legend of Zelda, you have
Exactly.
Castlevania, you
Hmm.
have
Metroid.
Mega Man, Metroid, Tetris, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
Duck Hunt. You have a lot of these kind of games now. And the thing is that yeah, they would become repetitive over time, but the thing is these were not the repetitiveness of baseball. Baseball, you can only play one way.
Yeah,
You know,
seriously, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
football, you can only play one way. You have Super Mario Brothers, and then that spawns off later on into other Mario related games.
Mhm.
Legend of Zelda spawns off into a bunch of different style of games. Castlevania gets a million different types of renditions um over time, and a lot of it really, Castlevania was really inspired by gothic horror, really, if you think about it, which was kind of
Okay.
interesting,
Yeah, absolutely.
and a lot of those kind of games, and of course Tetris would become huge on the handheld systems
Oh, yeah, it's still
eventually.
big. It's
I mean,
still really
Tetris
huge.
is still huge to this day.
Yeah.
And
How simple of a game it is, it's still huge.
yeah, and characters like Mario, Luigi, Zelda, Link are all still so beloved to this day. You go to conventions, there's whole areas still devoted to just them.
There's a Nintendo World at Universal Studios Orlando, I believe. Like,
Exactly.
they
And
have a
and
literal amusement park.
yeah, it's just so insane to think
It
about
is.
that.
It is. Huge jump. And then in that same year, we have Sega 1000. Like, it seems
Oh,
like
Sega
83 was the year to
1000.
play video games because it was their first home console that they put in the console race. And then you had sort of a change from that in 85. So they waited like 2 years to upgrade things. And they created the Sega Master System, which on
Mhm,
paper is supposed to be better than the Sega 1000 and the NES combined.
mhm.
But a lot of people actually find that to be controversial. I don't really know because I've actually never played a Sega Master System, but it's or it was at least super, super popular in Europe and in South America.
For sure. And they would also start the whole Ninja series, like Ninja Princess, Ninja Gaiden, all those kind of games
Whoa.
as well.
Hmm.
So, yeah, Sega would be huge in that market as well, and it's pretty wild just to think about that.
Absolutely. And then just to like um circle back onto all
Yeah.
of these gaming systems from like the first and second generation, you saw a rise in not only technological advancements, but arcade culture and coin operated machines gained even more popularity. You had home entertainment booms and cultural curiosity and innovation. And that's literally what united us as a community.
Oh yeah.
The impact we still see today. It created a new industry. It shaped generational experiences. I know for a fact it shaped my experiences, at least the third and fourth generation of consoles.
Mhm.
And then it also included interactive media, which, like John was saying, in the past, all we really had were movies and comics and all of these stories laid out for us that we weren't really a part of, but we were taken on this journey. Whereas video games, we're in control, and that was one of the biggest impacts. It gave us a little bit more power as consumers, and also it connected us with people. Global connectivity, like John was saying, midnight premieres. You have all of these gatherings for video games, like it really, really focused on community.
Well, down the road, even, and we'll talk more about this when we get to kind of the golden age for us, at least.
Mhm.
People started bringing their old consoles while waiting in line and plugging televisions in and starting
Mhm.
to play games while they waited for the new thing to come out, you know? I mean,
Oh
that's how
yeah.
big the gaming community really became, and really it formed a whole community of people like, I play these games, we play too. Hey, let's play together sometime, you know? And that's how people made friends sometimes too, is by just going over to somebody's house and playing video games, you know?
I had a play or I I'm in a bowling league, and one of our
Right.
old league partners,
Yeah.
they're married. They met through World of Warcraft.
No way. Of
Yeah,
all games,
of
World of
all games.
Wow. I
But
remember
but
the boom of that too.
the fact that they were able to find love and connection, a human on the most human level through
Yeah.
a video game is crazy.
No, that's wild. I mean, the connections people formed. I knew a guy in college who married his wife because they were avid Nintendo fans. And when I went over to their house
Whoa.
one time, their whole house is decked out with Mario, Luigi, Zelda, so many
Relationship
characters.
goals.
Yeah, no, for real. No, talk about relationship goals. I mean, and watching them and seeing every generation of Nintendo console, and they're going back to the NES all the way to the Switch, was insane.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You can express yourself, you can share expressions with family and friends and
Yeah.
lovers, potential lovers, things like that. It's a space for connection. It really is.
Absolutely. Well, now that we got the 80s kind of covered, let's move on to the 90s. The 90s, I feel like, is when gaming was starting to shape up, especially coming more into the modern era of
Oh
gaming.
yeah, it took off. It took
Yeah,
off.
and then we start getting a lot more we start getting a lot we even get some new generation of consoles. I mean, the
Mhm.
90s is when the first PlayStation launched, you
Oh
know?
yeah.
And the
Oh yeah.
90s is really kind of what really allowed gaming to come in. But one of the biggest things I feel like that also came out of the 90s was computer gaming. You know,
Oh
getting
yeah.
games that you could play on your computer and be able to just import to your computer or CD-ROM, and the next thing you know, you load up a game and you can play a game just on your family's computer, you know, and that was another big thing too. So if you didn't have money to go get a console, most people by that time were starting to get computers. Just get a computer, pop a game in, and you're right at home.
It really set the stage for what we consider the golden era of video gaming. I mean,
Hmm.
technically, yes, it is the 90s, but Sega Genesis, it came out in 1989, but then it revolutionized the 90s because
It did.
16-bit or already double what we got in the 80s. 16-bit graphics and faster gameplay.
Hmm.
And then it introduced phenomenal and amazing and famous characters that we still to this day love and admire, like Sonic and
Oh yeah.
Nintendo's Mario. Mario and Sonic, their first pretty much big revivals were done through the Sega Genesis, and that was early 90s, and then it sparked a major console war between Sega and Nintendo. And
Yeah.
Nintendo actually started bringing out Sonic 2 and Mortal Kombat.
Oh yes. Well, when Mortal Kombat was able to come into your home, that was huge because Mortal Kombat was controversial ever since its original iteration. I mean,
Oh yeah.
it started as an arcade game, and the next thing you know, people are complaining about it. They're angry because my kid's playing this violent game. I think really you wouldn't get games like Ninja Gaiden or the more violent type of games like that, or even paving the way for games like Call of Duty and Halo if it weren't for Mortal Kombat, really, because Mortal
Oh yeah.
Kombat is what put Mortal Kombat and Doom were the two biggest
Oh
ones.
yeah.
Of course, Doom was was a PC game originally,
Mhm.
and
True.
that's one of the games I'm going to talk about in a minute when I talk about computer gaming. But no, Mortal Kombat coming to the Genesis was huge because, Nintendo prided themselves on being very family friendly, and so did
Yeah.
Sega. But Sega wasn't afraid also to cater to the more adolescent audience as well, and that's where you get those games, Mortal Kombat, Ninja Gaiden, and those kind of games.
Yeah, and the 90s sort of set the precedent that gaming isn't just for children. It's for everyone. It's not just for children or
Mhm.
young adults. It's for everyone.
Absolutely. In fact, have you ever heard of speaking of Ninja Gaiden, have you ever heard of the infamous game over screen that was on that game?
No, no, no.
Oh, I gotta tell you about this. Okay, so Ninja Gaiden was a fun game. I played it a couple times, but if you lost at any point in the game over screen was the main character trapped, tied up as a saw moves down toward them, and then
Whoa.
at the very end, screen turns red, you're back to wherever you were. In
Whoa.
some cases, the main menu.
Well, that even just talking about it now in 2025, that's still pretty intense.
It is. I mean, because I mean, if you think about it, people have talked about having nightmares of that screen. I'll have to send you a screen cap of it when we finish this episode.
I will probably have nightmares just by hearing you talk about it. So.
Come on, you watch
I
some of
still
the
want to
most
see it.
you
I
talk
still
about
want to see it.
okay, yeah, yeah. I was gonna say because you've seen some of the most extreme horror movies out there. Like you could,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But no, I'll have to send you a screen cap of that for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And depending on, I'll have to read the guidelines of Instagram. Depending on their guidelines, we might even put it up on the Instagram. That's a maybe.
Possibly. I would do it in video format rather than a picture because I can tell you, looking at a picture of that is far more terrifying than seeing the actual video.
Oh,
In
okay,
my
okay, that's
opinion, in
fair.
my
Yeah, yeah,
opinion.
yeah. Okay.
But yeah, no, that was Ninja Gaiden, and of course, Mortal Kombat was infamous for being extremely violent. It had scenes of blood, it had scenes of gore. That was one of the big things that they pushed, and it's crazy to see how Sega wasn't afraid to push that envelope as well, whereas Nintendo very much was like we're family friendly, and they stuck with
Yeah.
more of the Mario Kart, the more well Mario Kart's one of them, but Mario, Zelda, and the more safer options. And even though Zelda had some violence, it was very cartoonish compared to what Mortal Kombat and Ninja Gaiden offered.
Yeah, arguably they're still very family friendly because I can't recall like the most violent game I've ever played on a Nintendo system was probably Call of Duty on the Nintendo DS,
Oh
but
yeah,
even then it was highly censored and it
they
didn't
they
really do
really
well.
yeah, they
Yeah.
censored that for sure really
Yeah.
heavily. But
Yeah.
no, Sonic was also huge on the Sega Genesis because I mean
Oh yeah.
Sonic becomes the character that most people know, and then now you have Mario versus Sonic. Basically, that
Yeah,
was the
well that
war.
that was Sega's response to Nintendo's Mario. They're like, "You know
Yeah,
what? We're gonna make a really cool character too."
and what's cool is both are still very popular, despite the
Oh yeah.
fact that Sega doesn't even exist anymore. Because well, I think Nintendo has Sonic now.
Okay, okay, let's get a little heated. Are you Team Mario or Team Sonic?
I had to go Mario just because I played more Nintendo stuff. But don't get me
That's
wrong, I
fair.
still love Sonic. I still love
Yeah,
Sonic. Sonic is still my boy. But still, I
gotcha.
watched the Sonic the Hedgehog movies. I've seen all that kind of stuff. I
Yeah,
still love Sonic as a
yeah,
character. But
yeah.
Nintendo probably just because I played more of their stuff.
Okay, okay, that's fair, that's fair.
hmm for sure. But now looking at computer gaming, that was probably another industry, and probably one of the biggest titles I have for that is Doom.
Doom, okay.
Doom was another very controversial game, but again changed the way of gaming. I mean, Doom was one of the first games to introduce graphic violence in the way that it did. You also have games like Myst, Secret of Monkey Island. I know. Age of Empires 2, StarCraft, and a lot of those games, which now are on the PC. And the cool thing about
Okay.
about computer gaming, I think, is that it allowed everyone to have a part of this, even if they couldn't buy or didn't want to buy a console, because consoles were expensive. Even
Oh, yeah.
though they had price points of maybe $100 in the '90s, that was pretty pricey. Let's be real.
Yeah. Well, even
Um,
today, it's
even
pretty
to
pricey.
well, even today, $100 is pretty pricey. But what
Mhm.
what I'm saying is what people were willing to spend and how valuable
Mm.
the dollar
Yep.
was and has been.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I remember, just a lot of those consoles were just huge. And then of course, one of the big Nintendo consoles we get in the '90s, and I'm sorry, I'm going to shift a little bit, but one of the biggest ones we get is the Nintendo 64.
Yeah.
That was wow. The Nintendo 64 was probably the console that I think really kicked off the modern era of gaming aside from the PlayStation 1. I don't know what you think, but that's kind of what I'm seeing as well.
I'm actually gonna disagree with that just because
Really?
right before the Sony
Okay.
PS1 came
Yeah.
out,
What do you?
and that actually introduced the CD-ROM format that we're all pretty much, used to now besides
Sure.
downloading.
Okay.
So it allowed like, the PS1 allowed for longer games, so you had,
Okay.
like, 3 hours worth of gameplay,
Mhm.
better audio, and actual full motion video.
Okay.
And they
Okay.
also created like 3D games and it established Sony as a powerhouse. And I think that in itself inspired Nintendo, hence the reason why Nintendo 64 shifted to CD-ROM. Had
Sure.
PlayStation not done that, who knows what the N64 could have been, and then who knows what everything after that could have been.
That's true. I mean that okay, I see where you're coming from there, but the thing with the Nintendo 64 is that it really built on on improvements that the original NES did not have.
Oh,
And that's
100%.
also where you get games like Mario Kart, Super Smash Bros,
Super Mario 64,
Super
one of the
Mario
greatest games ever.
64. Yeah, Super Mario 64, one of the greatest games ever. And then probably one of the greatest first-person shooter games comes out of the Nintendo 64, which I'm pretty sure you're going to bring up later though, GoldenEye.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time.
Legends of Zelda Ocarina of Time. All of those games are what allowed Nintendo to grow as a franchise because now with each new console, they had to release their own version of
Mhm,
Mario Kart, Legend of Zelda, Super Smash Bros, all those kinds. And of course,
mhm.
some of these games do go back to the original NES, of course, but what I'm saying is they really took off when the N64 came out.
Yeah, and that was what, like a 20-year difference? So in those 20 years, they were able to revamp
Nearly.
audio, graphics, the entire gameplay system as a whole, and then excuse me, create even more established characters and storylines. But most importantly, it introduced the analog stick controller. We were no longer just pressing two buttons or going to an arcade playing one. It allowed for us to actually play with a little analog stick at home.
Oh, absolutely. And I think what's really cool about that is, now you aren't just putting in a little what do you call it? Cartridge into your console.
Nope.
Because even with the Sega Genesis, you had to do that. You had to put a
Hmm.
cartridge in.
Yeah.
Nintendo 64 and PlayStation were the two that started using, like you said, the CD-ROM format. So now
Yeah.
you have a disc that you put
Hmm.
in. I think the N64 though did. I'm trying to remember if they had. It's been
It had
years.
cartridges.
I
Yeah.
thought
It.
I was gonna say I
Yeah.
think the 64 had cartridges. I
Yeah.
caught myself on that one. I was like, okay, wait, I think they had cartridges.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a thing. But now I understand you had a PlayStation 1, if
I
I'm not
did.
mistaken.
Yes. I actually
So
still do. Um.
wow, I will let you talk about the PlayStation 1 then.
Yeah, the when it comes to the PS1, it really changed the game because it like I said, it introduced CD-ROM, but it also just changed the way that we see storylines as well. It's not
Mhm.
just you like say the older uh Zelda games.
Yeah,
You walk around, you go to different villages, you complete a mission and you talk to people. But the Sega Genesis or not the Sega, excuse me, the PS1 allowed for gameplay that was a little bit more lighthearted, but also a little bit easier to on the eyes as well.
hmm,
Some of those examples that I used to play were, say, SpongeBob SquarePants,
yeah,
or the Monsters Incorporated game,
hmm,
or even Scooby Doo Cyber Chase. All of those games, not only graphically were they higher standard than any of their predecessors, but they also had great storylines that kept you wanting more.
yeah,
And you had really monumental games such as Resident Evil and Final Fantasy, which you wouldn't or Final Fantasy 7, which you
yeah.
wouldn't even be able to comprehend on a 16-bit or even an 8-bit
Hmm.
gaming system. So it really, really, really changed the game. It was
Yeah.
definitely one of those systems that not a lot of people have played. I feel like most of the people who are in the PlayStation games started in the PS2.
Oh, for sure. Well, I mean, the thing with the PlayStation 1 is that, yeah, it was the newest thing, but and despite it being groundbreaking, I don't think it really took off as much as maybe obviously the PS2 would, and that's
Oh
because I
yeah.
still think with the PS1 is that this was just their fresh. And I feel like whenever a new
Mm,
console's introduced, the first one, yes, is essential because it's what kicks your product off, but
yeah,
it's how you innovate. And I think what the thing with video gaming is
exactly.
it's always about the innovations. What are you doing new? What is next? And
Yeah.
that is, I think, what allowed the PS2 to become more successful. But PS1, I mean, what was groundbreaking as in itself, as you said. I mean, it used CD-ROM, and so instead of having to put another a cartridge in, you would put a disc in.
Yeah. It also came with newer problems though. Like say with the cartridge, the cool thing about the cartridge is say it gets dusty, it's not working, you just
Mhm.
blow on it, and
Yeah.
for some reason, it was one of those things that if you hit it, it'll work. Like say your game wasn't working and then you just like banged it on your couch or whatever and you popped it in, it would work. Whereas the introduction of the CD-ROM, everything becomes very delicate. The most
Yeah.
minor scratch can ruin your entire gaming experience.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's one thing. I mean, but the other thing too with the CD-ROM is that they're fragile. You hit that once
Mhm.
against the wall, there goes your disc. It's shattering in two.
Oh yeah, and if you're gullible like me, you'll put toothpaste on it to clear the scratches.
Oh my gosh, have you how many people told us that toothpaste would be what fixes a disc?
Yep, I did that on not only a game but also a DVD. It's safe to say I've never done that since.
My parents believed in that for the longest time, and I think honestly that's what's ruined a lot of our DVDs because Um, everyone
Yeah.
swore by it though. It wasn't just like an
Everyone
old
did,
wives'
yeah.
tale. It was something that people actually thought would work.
Oh, I know.
You know?
There was no scientific backing on it. It was literally just hearsay. But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, we were like, okay, let's go home and revive that one game we haven't played in years.
No, absolutely. It's pretty wild to think that that's how we tried to start doing that. But
Yeah.
another game for the PS1 that I remember playing was Gran Turismo.
Oh, yes,
Yeah, I played
yes.
I played Gran Turismo a lot. I've only played the PS1 maybe 2 times in my life, and
Okay.
that's because I got introduced to that a little bit later in life, and obviously newer generations that come out. So it was more just kind of a rite of passage for me to
Which is
play the PS1.
hilarious because have only played 1 or 2 games on the PS2.
I
So,
still cannot believe
yeah.
that you've never owned a PlayStation 2.
Well,
Gasp, I know. Everyone's probably freaking out right now listening to this.
well, it was me and 2 other brothers, there's 3 of us, so
Yeah.
things get pretty expensive,
Oh, sure.
things add up, but I was definitely jealous of everyone who had a PS2. I remember, my friend Joe, he had a PS2, and that's where he would play, Grand Theft Auto
Yes.
and games like that. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
very jealous, I was very jealous, but it was thanks to the consoles in the '90s that set the stage for this golden age that we're actually about to talk about.
Oh yeah. The one thing about just to wrap up really quick on the early gaming age was each decade was building upon something, and I feel like everyone wanted to be innovative, but I feel like what we're about to talk about next is when it really peaked. For the better. So,
Yeah, yeah,
if you're cool with it, I'll go ahead and take it away for the golden age.
please.
Okay. So, the golden age of video gaming, as I like to see it, and I'm sure many of you would probably agree, but if you don't, that
Me
is okay.
included.
Yep. Is probably between the years 2000 and 2010. This is where we get probably some of the most innovative consoles of all time, namely being the Nintendo Gamecube, which really upped the ante, and they also started going to disc, but they were the little tiny thing. Do you remember those little tiny? Yeah, they were like the size of like they weren't even the size of a donut. I'm trying to think
Keep
what they're
talking. I'm gonna get mine so that I could use it as a
Okay,
comparison,
yes,
okay?
yes, please go get it. Please. Yes, yes, yes. But here's the thing. With the GameCube is really what changed the face of Nintendo because that's where not only graphics and gameplay innovate, but that's also where we get the idea of, newer versions of Mario Kart, newer versions of Zelda, newer versions of so many different games. And GameCube is really what upped the ante for the video game market. And then Sega comes out with a console called the Dreamcast. Now, unfortunately, the Dreamcast would be Sega's last entry into the video game world. And the reason being is because it did not generate enough sales for it to be a massive success and keep up with Nintendo and Sony and many of these other companies and whatnot. Now, my friend, I see that you're back now. What do you have for us in terms of the Nintendo GameCube game?
I also wanted to mention that
Yeah.
Sega's exit actually, the hardware paved the way for Microsoft. So
Oh, yeah, I was just about to get to that actually.
where would the Xbox be without Sega?
Well, Sega exits the game and enters Microsoft at this point
Hmm.
with their own gaming console, the Xbox. And the Xbox was probably the biggest competitor and has been the biggest competitor to Sony's PlayStation market. And the reason being is because of the fact that Xbox was building upon new things as well, and Microsoft, being a computer company originally, was something that allowed their gaming industry in their form to take off. And then they partner with so many different companies. They partner with a company called Bungie to create so many different games for the console, and one of those games being the ever popular and my all-time video game, Halo Combat Evolved.
Oh man, I
Yeah,
still have to play Halo.
I still can't believe you've never played Halo.
I
That
never had an Xbox. I was a PlayStation
Yeah,
person.
you're a PlayStation girl, so I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it's pretty wild, but
I have
you
some
know.
things to show.
Yes,
Okay.
what do you got GameCube wise? We're gonna get back to this
So
discussion in a bit.
just for a visual aid to show you the differences in sizes, I brought three different types of CD-ROMs
Yeah.
that were used and are still used.
And make
So
sure you
this is
watch on the YouTube if you want to see this.
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna be posting a picture of it on the Instagram, but for a better view, definitely check us out on YouTube.
All
So
right.
here's a PS1 game. Okay.
SpongeBob.
So it's yeah, this was one of my favorite games growing up. It's
Wow.
your basic CD-ROM, okay? So it mimics that of a say a just a music CD, okay? And then same thing with like say the PS4, PS5, PlayStation 3, same size. GameCube.
And it looks like a big disc. Look at that tiny little thing.
Oh yeah. And then to compare.
That's
Oh,
insane. I'm trying to figure out what format GameCube was using at the time because that is not a DVD or CD-ROM. Anyhow, getting back to our discussion, so we have the GameCube, we have Sega's exit, of course, probably one of the big games that was on the Dreamcast that I can mention is Sonic Adventure 1998 was probably the biggest game that was released for that console, and
oh, that's cool.
unfortunately, um, it came out in 1999 in the US, but it carried over a little into the 2000s, and then I can't remember when it was discontinued. Um, I believe it was I think it wasn't long after. I think it was like 2000 2001 that the Dreamcast got discontinued. And then that's what allowed Microsoft's Xbox to take off because they came out with a whole new system. They came out with a whole new form of gaming, and they just innovated in so many ways that so many other gaming companies have. And then you get Halo, and Halo is what really gives first person shooters a whole new look and feel, putting you in the perspective of the character, the Master Chief, which is probably by far one of the most groundbreaking games of all time, really, if you think about it.
Yeah,
Um,
and the Dreamcast, no one really thinks about it, but it really paved the way for modern online gaming. Playing with people you don't know. What?
yeah, Dreamcast started that, and then and then other companies would build upon that, and then online gaming would become a massive different thing, it'd become a huge market really. And now multiplayer game online gaming is so huge to a point where it's its own entity now, and some games are just made exclusively for online gaming, which I think is just really really cool. But probably the cream of the crop, the tip of the top, the gaming console that beat all others out in the early 2000s was
Brrrr.
none other than Sony's PlayStation 2, which to this day is the highest selling console of all time, selling over 150 million units.
Oh my gosh.
And when I say over, it's even higher than that. Like that's how
Oh,
big of a thing the PlayStation 2 was.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I owned a
Start
PlayStation.
to the millennium.
Yeah, the PlayStation 2 really was a groundbreaking console. I mean, you get games like Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Of course, Gran Turismo got built upon more on the PlayStation 2. You get the introduction of games like Guitar Hero, which was huge in my life especially. Of course, I didn't start playing Guitar Hero till Guitar Hero 3 Legends of Rock came out, but Guitar Heroes 1 and 2 were PlayStation 2 exclusives, with the latter being later released on the 360.
I did not know that Guitar Hero had its run in the PS2 or started its run in the PS2.
Oh
For
yeah.
some reason, I thought it was way later than that.
No, Guitar Hero 1 came out in 2005. And the reason I know this is because I
Wow.
remember playing it so vividly with my friend who I had a neighbor. His name was Brock. He lived just around the corner from me. And I'd sometimes play. I was friends with his brother and sister who were closer to my age, but Brock was a little bit older. And basically, he had a PlayStation 2 at the time, and he had Guitar Hero.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so can you
Yeah,
set the scene for me? When it comes to Guitar Hero, obviously, most of us know it as, you have a plastic guitar with
yeah.
some colored buttons and then that little swivel thing in the middle to mimic strumming and plucking. What did it look like on the PS2?
A lot more downgraded, obviously, but it had a lot. Again, it was groundbreaking. It was the same game. You have the fret buttons that you have in the typical Guitar Hero game. But it was scaled down a little bit, and the fretboard, which I can send a picture to you later, and we can put it on the Instagram,
Let's do it.
was a bit more downgraded, and the gameplay was the same way. You had to hit the notes as they come down the highway, and you have a rock meter, which tells you if you're doing good playing the song, if you're just doing all right, or if you suck. And then there was a note counter, which counted how many notes you hit, and then your star power meter, which basically, if you don't know Guitar Hero, star power basically, if you hit a certain number of notes in a row that have stars on them, you can up what's called your star power, which basically helps you if you're not doing that well. And then it launches you into like this rock god mode, I guess you could say. It doesn't make
Yeah.
you a god, but it just starts, and then everyone's like, yeah. And like your guitar starts lighting up on some of the 360 versions. Your guitar even starts on fire. It's
Whoa.
insane, and then whatnot. But that game is what I feel gave me my love for classic rock, to be honest with you.
Really? Well, they always had a really good list of not only artists but songs. I remember with the very few instances that I've actually played Guitar Hero, it was at like a movie theater arcades or just arcades in general.
Yeah.
And the fact that the discography on that was great, I can't even imagine how great it was at home.
Oh, I can read you some of the songs that were included on the original Guitar Hero, the
Do it.
OG
Do it.
PS2. Ace of Spades by Motorhead, Bark at the Moon, Ozzy Osbourne, Cowboys from Hell, Pantera, Crossroads by Cream, Frankenstein by the Edgar Winter Group, Godzilla by Blue Oyster Cult, Heart Full of Black by Burning Brides, Higher Ground by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, I Love Rock and Roll by Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, I Want to Be Sedated by the Ramones, Iron Man by Black Sabbath, Killer Queen by Queen, More Than a Feeling by Boston, Sharp Dressed Man, ZZ Top, No One Knows, Queens of the Stone Age, Symphony of Destruction by Megadeth, Unsung by Helmet, You've Got Another Thing Coming by Judas Priest, Take Me Out by Franz Ferdinand, Texas Flood by Stevie Ray Vaughan, and Ziggy Stardust by David Bowie.
Oh my gosh. See, and I'm sure the list could just keep going on classics
Oh
that it
yeah,
had,
I
but oh my
there's
gosh.
so many, and then sometimes you got bonus songs as well if you were willing to. Now there was no such thing as DLC, but if you were willing to
Now remind
available
us again what DLC is.
DLC is downloadable content. So if you pay a certain price, you
Mm.
can download the songs. This is kind of the early stage of this, but with this, I think you had to buy it with the game somehow. I can't remember how it was done back in the day, but this is kind of the first instance of DLC.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but you can also purchase with what they call in-game money from career mode. So if you play career mode, what that is in Guitar Hero is you basically go on the journey of a rock star up and coming, and you play all of the songs in the game at certain stages, and if you play them all in career mode, you earn money as though you're actually doing gigs and working your way to becoming a rock star. And the more money you earn, the more things you can buy, like add-ons for your guitar, you can buy
Whoa.
characters, and the coolest part is you could buy bonus songs, which means songs that were included that if you earned enough money you could unlock them and you can play them in the game. Now, a lot of these are by bands I don't really know, but I mean, some of them, like All of This by Seamus, um, is one of them. Even Rats by The Slip, Fire It Up by Black Label Society, Sail Your Ship by Count Zero. Again, some of these songs I don't even really know,
Yeah, I didn't
unfortunately,
recognize them actually.
and whatnot. But yeah, those were those kind of songs were on there. But Guitar Hero started off with the PlayStation 2, so that's the reason I had to bring it up, and it was a big part of my youth. And I played Guitar Hero throughout my entire childhood, so that's kind of where it started for me. Was Guitar Hero 2005? It is incredible. And I'll have to
Well,
send you also a link to the startup screen of Guitar Hero, the introduction. It's so cool.
oh, I bet, I bet. But it seems like the PS2, the designers and developers, they really knew what they were doing because not only did they give us and serve us such amazing games, but they also were like, you know what? Let's make it more family friendly in the
Oh
way
yeah.
of let's have it have multiple uses, like let's
Yep.
utilize it to its fullest. And then
Yep.
that's why you get a DVD playback and backwards compatibility to the PS1.
Absolutely. And that was the biggest selling point for the PS2 is now you could go to your parents and be like, "Mom, Dad, you guys want a DVD player. I want a video game console. Guess what? The PlayStation 2 has all in one. Just get me a
Absolutely.
PlayStation 2 and I will let you watch your DVDs on it." I mean, that's really what you did.
Let's give John a hand for that childlike voice. I love it. I love it. But that's exactly
Man,
how
I
it
needed a
was.
drink
That's
of
exactly
water
how it
after that.
went.
That got my voice. I'm getting old.
That's that's too good. That's too good. No, I remember being so far behind in the game because or so far behind in the gaming world, mostly because I purchased the PS1 or my mom purchased the PS1 for my brothers and I. And then a couple years later, you had the PS2, and
Yeah.
my mind was blown. I was like, "Okay, I thought there was just one console in this world. Now you're telling me there's another PlayStation and this PlayStation plays DVDs?" Unfortunately, that wasn't enough to sway my parents to get us one, but still, knowing that was huge because DVD
Yep.
players back then were expensive.
They were, and to tell you the truth, the coolest part was Microsoft matched that and also allowed DVD playback because both companies were
Whoa.
competing so heavily. They basically were saying, well, if Sony's going to do this, we're going to do this too.
Oh, yeah.
And basically Microsoft is also where you get the use of DVD playback as well, and
Mm.
both of their gaming consoles put their games on DVDs, which allowed the use of DVD format rather than CD-ROM format.
No, that makes more sense. Okay, okay.
So yeah, so really I remember, oh my gosh, I remember watching videos when the PS2 was launched. I remember people stood in line
Oh,
for
well,
that console.
it's the
Like you,
beginning of the millennium, you know?
Mhm.
Everyone realized Y2K was a joke, so they're like, "Let's take advantage of it and buy, consume, consume." And what better to consume than a console that changed the game?
Yeah, so the PS1 came out in 2000, or the PS2, I'm sorry. PS2
Yeah.
came out in 2000. The Xbox wouldn't release for another year. So I think what gave Microsoft a big hand aside from Sega's exit was the fact that they had a whole year to look at Sony's PlayStation and be like, this is where we're going to capitalize. This is what we're going to do to make it more innovative, and this is what we're going to
Oh,
do to
that's a
make
good point.
everything so big.
And then
And
they brought in Xbox Live.
yeah, Xbox Live, speaking of which, you want to talk about online gaming. Sega might have introduced it, but Microsoft capitalized on it
Oh,
because
yeah.
Microsoft was the first. They're like, okay, one thing Sony doesn't have is online gaming, and that's what we're going to give the people. And that was what gave the big war between Xbox and PlayStation its big
Mhm.
rivalry at the time. Microsoft's thinking, what do they have that we don't have? And the biggest thing they capitalized on was online gaming. And then they said, let's make online gaming thing. Now you had to pay for it, but more than half the people who owned an Xbox were more than willing to pay for that because now they realize I don't have to just go to somebody's house after school. I can go to my own home and I can hop on Xbox Live and I can play Halo Combat Evolved with all of my friends on multiplayer. And let me tell you, Halo multiplayer is the greatest thing that has ever been invented because also not only do you have the nice fun idea of being able to play with your friends, you have what I like to call the voice of God, or Jeff Seitzer, who's the iconic announcer in the multiplayer with the voice going double kill, triple kill, unfreaking believable. He says stuff like that throughout the whole thing. So you're playing multiplayer, right? And you take out two people, double kill. You take out three people, triple kill. You take out somebody else, running riot. And you'll just hear that randomly throughout your multiplayer experience. It is the greatest thing to ever exist.
Oh, that's too cool. That's
Yeah,
too
and it's
cool.
still on Halo games to this day, I believe. I don't know if
Really?
Infinite and 5 had it, but all the way up to Halo 4 they had it, and it was the greatest funniest thing cuz you just don't know when that voice is going to come on when you're trying to play the game.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's too funny.
it's funny. And of course Halo had a very compelling campaign arc as well, and that's kind of where you also get the beginning of campaign storylines. So
Mhm. Oh,
video
yeah.
games, obviously one of the biggest selling points of course is its multiplayer, but campaign storylines are also big because really if you think about it, it's also cool to follow a story when you play a game and to follow characters throughout a journey, and following Master Chief in that game was incredible. And when you think of Halo as a franchise, it really would be what would allow games like Call of Duty to evolve and
Mm,
become what they are, because Call of Duty wouldn't come out for another couple of years.
yeah.
And funny enough, one of the other things I kind of wanted to touch upon is where was PC gaming at this time? Because consoles are dominating the landscape and PC gaming is kind of just in the back. But in 2003, one of the biggest games gets launched for the PC, and that is Call of Duty. Call of Duty
Mm,
1. Call of
yeah.
Duty started as a computer game only, and I think what made Call of Duty so revolutionary was the fact that now you're not just killing random people like in some of these other games. You're a soldier on the battlefield. It kind of gives you that experience in your own home. Obviously, it's going to be nothing compared to if you actually enlist and serve. But I mean, it really pushed the boundaries for what gaming could possibly do. And I think the fact of the matter that the PC market was able to keep up during this console market was pretty cool. And the fact that Call of Duty was one of the games that allowed for that was insane.
Now, I'm really glad you brought up PC gaming again
Yep.
because I definitely just want to touch upon that a little bit more.
Of course, absolutely.
Um, So we're gonna trail back a little bit just for a second
Let's do it.
because PC gaming has been around since the late 70s. I
Yeah.
didn't even know that upon my research. And in the early 80s,
Wow.
on personal computers like Apple II or the Commodore 64 or the IBM PC, it offered something that consoles really couldn't. And three of the biggest selling points to having a PC that even to this day people still love and appreciate is that you're able to program things and
Yeah.
modify things
Hmm.
and store complex software so you can store as many games as possible just depending on how much RAM you
On
have
one
or
little disc, even.
on one disk, exactly. And home computers, it like we mentioned earlier, advanced in the 1980s, 90s. John mentioned Doom, but also Wolfstein. I've actually not played
Wolfenstein.
Wolfenstein. There we
Yeah,
go.
I
Sorry,
forgot. How did
I
I
can't
forget?
even read my.
How did I forget Wolfenstein? Wolfenstein starts on the PC.
Yeah,
I'm so used to it
3D.
being. I'm so used to Wolfenstein being a console game now. I forget it has
Mm.
its origins in the PC world, just like Call of Duty.
Yeah, but the PC basically started a lot of the big franchises that we know and love today, like
Sure.
Doom,
Doom.
Warcraft, the Sims games, Sim City,
Yeah.
and games like Civilization, which obviously now we know as more slice of life gaming. And then
Sure.
by the early 2000s, consoles like the PlayStation 2 and Xbox dominated the living room entertainment because PC gaming sort of stood apart from that.
It did.
You sort of saw them as two separate entities. You were never like, "Oh, this PC war versus console." You didn't start seeing that until later on in the 2000s, you know? But
Mhm.
before that, PC was its own thing. It was its own realm of video game playing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, PC gaming, was something that really anybody could get their hands on is the thing.
Mhm.
Anyone who had a computer, most people at this point in their lives had computers because that's how they did business. That's how they typed up, things they had to type up. That's how they did reports. That's how they did a lot of different things. So most average homes by this point had a computer because everything was starting to go digital. And
Mhm.
so by this point, most of these families that have kids, okay, well, after dinner, if you get your homework done, you can have maybe an hour of computer time.
Yeah. Did you own any PC games? I've only owned 2 in my life.
Yeah, so PC games, the biggest one I think I owned was MLB 2005. I can't remember the name of the game exactly, but the cover um had St. Louis Cardinal star Albert Pujols on the cover of the
Oh,
game,
okay,
and
okay.
basically it's simulated. If you got to play actual games of baseball, you got to pick the teams, you got to pick the stadium that they played at, you got to pick whether it was day or night, if it was raining, if there was overcast, all those kinds of different things. It was really cool. And so that was
Yeah.
really the first one I had. Other than that, the only other PC games I really owned were educational ones.
Okay, yeah,
So
yeah.
like, of course, Arthur's First and Second Grade, all of those kind of games. I also I think had, of course, I had Hooked on Phonics, which was mostly an education system, but still, had some gaming in there too. So a lot of those kind of games. And of course, now, unfortunately, the only way you can play those games is if you're able to get a Windows XP old school computer
Yeah.
and
Did you
get it
ever
working.
and get it working?
Yeah.
Fair point, fair
What
point.
were you gonna ask me?
Were you ever a fan of, like, the Roller Coaster Tycoon series?
Yes. Okay. So Roller Coaster
Yeah.
Tycoon, I never owned, sadly.
Okay, okay.
Roller Coaster Tycoon was a game I did play again with my friend Brock. And if you're listening to this, shout out to you, my friend, for introducing me to Roller Coaster Tycoon. Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 was the game I played the
I
most.
was about to say 2 and 3.
It was
Yep,
fun,
yep.
getting to build your own roller coasters, your own rides, all that kind of thing. There was also a cheat you could enter in Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 that was a lot of fun, and we would mess around. So occasionally on Roller Coaster Tycoon, if you could build a crazy enough coaster, sometimes you could get a person to regurgitate their lunch in
See,
the game.
that's something that I love about, I would say, like, 3rd the
Uh-huh.
end of the 2nd generation to the 3rd generation and on,
Mhm.
that these consoles and these games allowed for cheat codes. I
Oh,
can't tell
it
you
gets
the
better.
Oh, yeah.
It gets
Oh, yeah.
better. No, no, no. It gets better. There's another cheat code you can enter called "Make Me Sick!" exclamation, and if you type that cheat code in, everyone in the park will vomit. It's wild.
Alrighty then. Okay,
I'm
okay.
sorry. I'm sorry for that
M
image, but
my first time using a cheat code was with a Grand Theft Auto game, and
same, same.
as you can imagine,
I
those
use these.
get pretty intense
Oh
depending
yeah.
on the friends you have.
Basically, PC gaming was really cool. A lot. It was something that pretty much anyone could do, especially if they were in the mode of not being able to afford a console or being able to have a console. Anyone could do it, but also it allowed for more transparent games. With console games, they were very specific to having story modes and all these things. PC games, I feel like, were more just about having fun and being able to get on your computer and instead of having to stress about your next report or your next thing, just unwind and play a game. It was more about the fun experience until we get to games like, of course, Call of Duty and a lot of those type of games for sure. But with that, the early era of gaming is really what kicked off our childhoods and really allowed for this next generation of gaming, which is probably around 2005 to about 2009 to enter the scene as well. And of course, that generation was probably really our prime. And that's where we get consoles like the PlayStation 3, the Xbox 360, which was one of the first non Nintendo consoles I owned, and the Nintendo Wii.
Ooh, ooh.
The Nintendo Wii was a massive game changer in terms of video gaming. Nintendo's whole market to that point was just like every other console. You sit on your couch and you use a little remote. The Nintendo Wii got you to interact with the game physically. You had a remote that was in your hand and you could swing it, throw, jump up and down. You basically control the game in a sense
Oh
with the
yeah. Oh
Nintendo
yeah.
Wii.
It actually got us off the couch for once.
It absolutely did, and you have games like Wii Sports, which allowed you to, instead of just pressing A to swing your bat, you had to simulate playing baseball.
Mhm.
With tennis, you had to simulate playing tennis. With Wii Play, you had to simulate playing all these games. Wii Music, you had to simulate playing an instrument. And when you get games like Mario Kart Wii, you had to simulate driving like this. So really, it was a console about simulating playing actual games instead of sitting
Absolutely.
there.
Yeah, it not only targeted gamers, but it targeted everyone in your entire family, not
Yeah,
just your older brother or your gaming sister or whatever, your gaming dad. It literally targeted everyone, expanding the gaming audience dramatically, especially appealing to people in the senior citizen communities. And
yeah.
that's crazy.
My parents played the Wii with me.
My parents did too, and they
Like,
my dad's from Honduras. He
sure.
never did anything when it came to playing things because he's old school in that
Yeah.
way. But he played the Wii with us, and that's the only console he's ever played in his life.
That's the same with my parents too. I've tried to get them to play Halo or Call of Duty with me when I was young, and obviously they were like, "Oh, I can't figure this thing out." But the Wii, they had the most fun playing. And then of course you have things like Wii Fit, which allowed you to
Mhm,
do like yoga, simulate jogging, all that kind of
mhm,
stuff.
mhm.
Yeah, I mean the Wii was the console that parents were actually willing to buy for their kids.
Oh yeah, I mean, going off of what you're saying with like the Wii Fit, you also had this like a motion. How should I say? It was like a movement of movement,
Yeah.
and you had games like Just Dance, and you
Yeah.
had games that sort of forced you to be active in the most coolest ways because they would come out with choreography and you'd have to match it, and by the time you know it, you've been playing for 3 hours and you're drenched in sweat. You know,
Exactly.
how more interactive can you be? And then you take that a step up. We have Rock Band, where you can actually have a full
Oh,
set of
yeah.
instruments with you, and you can bring your friends. Someone's on the mic, someone's on drums, someone's on guitar, another person's on like the
Bass.
tambourine that they had, and then they even I think
You
they even had a bass. Yeah,
well, you
exactly.
if you get two guitars, one can play guitar, one can play bass.
Oh, you know what? That's a great point.
Yeah,
Exactly, exactly.
Rock Band really was innovative, and I can tell you
Mhm.
really quick. I can give you a brief history why Rock Band became a thing. Even
Do
so,
it.
Harmonix was the company that originally invented Guitar Hero, with in
Oh,
conjunction with the company Red Octane.
Red Octane.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
Red Octane's the company that also did games like Dance Dance Revolution, and they started with a game in Japan. I think it was called Guitar Star. I can't remember what it was called, but it was the idea of using frets going down a row, and you have to hit them all in order to play the song. That evolves into Guitar Hero. Well, Red
Oh.
Octane in 2007, after Guitar Hero 2 released, got purchased by Activision.
Oh my
So
gosh.
Activision got them, and
Call of Duty.
they basically kicked Harmonix out of the world, because Harmonix was developing like rhythm games. Basically, that's what Guitar Hero is. It's a rhythm game.
Yeah.
Harmonix was big in that development, and when Red Octane was purchased by Activision, they got split, and now Guitar Hero, because it was a Red Octane thing, is now owned by Activision. So now Harmonix is upset. Harmonix goes and invents Rock Band in response.
Oh my gosh. And what a
Yeah.
great response that was, because I have some of the best memories
Mhm.
playing Rock Band.
Exactly. I mean, Harmonix really upped the ante, because now they're like, okay, well, if you're going to do that, they also, the thing is, they're like, you may have the game, we still have the patent. So it's not illegal for us to do this. You
Receipt.
guys can make Guitar Hero all you want,
Oh
but
my
we're starting
gosh.
new and we're adding the band, and that's where Rock Band comes out of. So that was the
Oh my
coolest part about that.
gosh.
Yeah. So I just had to share that really quick, but yeah, no, Rock Band really became big, and Rock Band I think actually was on the Wii before Guitar Hero was, because the first Guitar Hero game that came out on the Wii was Guitar Hero 3 Legends of Rock.
Yeah, yeah.
And that game is that is the best. That is like peak Guitar Hero right there.
Oh yeah.
That's where you have songs like Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses, Painted Black by the Rolling Stones, Hit Me with Your Best Shot by Pat Benatar, and the ever so popular Through the Fire and Flames by Dragon Force.
Okay, now I'm gonna go
Yeah.
look on eBay for for Guitar Hero 3. That's so
Hey, come over to
awesome.
my house sometime. We'll play.
Oh, I know. I just have to make the 4-hour drive.
Or I'll make the 4 hour drive to you. I'll find a way.
Oh, we'll meet halfway and like
We'll
rent a
meet in
theater or
Phoenix.
something.
I need to get new guitars because my guitars keep glitching, but
Oh, I
um,
don't even have any of my old setup. Like I said, I used to have like the guitars and the drum set and all that,
oh
but
man. And
I
Rock
think as
Band
a
guitars are
kid,
compatible
I
with Rock Band, and vice
know, I
versa.
know. Yeah, that's
And vice
too
versa.
funny. That's too funny.
But
Oh my
anyways,
gosh.
to get back to the main point, the Wii really just upped the ante for so many different games, consoles, development. Really, it got you to be a part of the game. That was the cool part about the Wii. It got you to
Yeah.
be a part of the game.
It
And
only made sense that eventually games would turn into, this not only an individual task, but something that you could look forward to besides online gaming with
sure.
people next to you, you know?
Yeah, no,
Um,
absolutely. It was really cool, and I think really it was amazing to see what the Wii was able to offer. But aside from the Wii, we also get two of the other amazing consoles, which are the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. So the PlayStation 3 was huge because that's where you get the Divergent series. Now, Divergent I think was on the PlayStation 2, but Divergent is where um PS3 is where it exploded. That's where it became a household name, really.
really?
I
Okay.
believe. Yeah, the PlayStation 3 is where was it Divergent or Uncharted? What am I saying?
I was gonna say Uncharted 2. I
Divergent.
I don't know
Divergent?
what Divergent is. It's a Monday. It's a
It's a
Monday. Let's just
Monday.
let's leave it at that.
It is a Monday, absolutely. Uncharted.
Yeah,
Uncharted,
Uncharted.
I believe was also on the PS2, but it really blew up with the PS3.
Yeah, with the release of Uncharted 2.
Uncharted
Um,
2, yeah.
it had I didn't know this because the PlayStation 3 is one of my favorite consoles of all time, but it had a
Mhm.
super rocky start and it started to pick up the second people realized, "Oh wait, this is compatible with Blu-ray and
Yeah,
free online play versus Xbox Live, which you had to subscribe to
yeah.
basically."
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the PlayStation 3 is really what allowed a lot of the video gaming market to boom. I mean, without the PlayStation 3, I don't think you would have as many innovative consoles as you do now. And I don't
No.
think even Xbox would have been able to evolve into the Xbox One and Series S without the PlayStation 3. Because
Well,
PlayStation
yeah.
at this point, I think, was seeing that, okay, we might have sold many units, but Microsoft got us on a few of these points.
Mm.
And Microsoft was playing it very safe with the Xbox 360, still sticking with the DVD format. PS3 was like, we're going to up the ante. We got this new thing called Blu ray coming out. We're going to add it to it. And all our games are going to be Blu rays as well. Then, of course, it also ups the ante for first person shooters because this is
Mhm.
when we get the era of Call of Duty Modern Warfare or Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, which that game changed the landscape for first person shooters, especially in the Call of Duty world. I mean,
Oh my gosh. Arguably, the best Call of Duty game out there is Modern Warfare 2, in my opinion.
Modern Warfare
2 and
2
3.
Modern Warfare 2 is probably my favorite Call of Duty game. That's the game that got me into Call of Duty.
Oh, yeah.
When
That and
I
Black Ops, maybe. Some of
and
my favorite games
yeah,
for the PlayStation
let's
3,
hear
just
it.
to go
Yeah.
back to the
No, let's
PlayStation
hear it. Let's
3,
hear it.
and they are some of them I have played minimally, so I've delved into them just for the sake of pop culture.
Yep.
But some of these are my favorite, but also some of these sort of were the first stepping stones to major franchises that we know and love today.
Mhm.
Some of them even sparking TV releases. One of those being The Last of Us. I don't know if you guys
Oh,
watched
yes.
HBO's The Last of Us, but The
I
Last
played the
of Us,
game too.
yeah, it took off the ground on PlayStation.
Hmm.
And also Little Big Planet,
Yep.
God of War 3, Dead Island, Grand Theft Auto 5 was huge on the
Oh,
PlayStation
yeah.
3. Then
And
you
then
had
eventually it made its way over to the 360.
exactly, exactly, but PlayStation definitely, set the stage for that, and then Gran Turismo 5. Can you believe it? The
Yes.
5th generation's worth, and then we were talking about the golden age, that's so awesome. And it
No, it's
also
crazy.
started the new series Hitman, one of my personal favorite games,
Oh,
and then
Hitman.
for
I
a
remember
lot of you
Hitman.
yeah, and then a lot of you comic book lovers, we have the Batman Arkham City series, and
Oh,
then just the
yes.
Arkham cities in gen or, Arkham series
Arkham
in
Asylum is
general.
one of my favorite Batman games of all time.
It's one
So
of the best renditions of the Joker.
it
Like, come
is.
on.
And you get
Come
Mark
on.
Hamill returning to the role.
Literally. Oh
What
my
more could you
gosh.
ask for? What more
No,
could you
no,
ask
no.
for?
The best interpretation of Harley Quinn.
Oh,
Hands
absolutely.
down.
I have to agree
Hands
with you.
down. Alright, so the reason why it for me it was most nostalgic was because you had chat lobbies and you had LAN parties. I
Yes, LAN parties.
Yeah, which we need to have for Halo, but I
We
used to
do.
have it back in the day for Call of Duty, so I can't even imagine the hype for Halo because 'cause I've seen some pretty rad memes on Reddit because of that,
Well,
because of Halo specifically.
I'll have to get a new 360 for us to do that because mine just died. But for sure
Oh,
when we do,
that's
we'll have
right.
to get a few
Yep.
360s to do that and a few copies of the Halo games.
Oh, yeah, yeah, and it helped build community, really, like,
Mm-hmm.
I remember coming to school and, someone talking about that new game that they played, and then you being like, "Oh, wait, what's your gamer tag?" And then,
Yeah,
like,
you share
chatting
gamer tags.
later on. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think another thing that made it nostalgic, just to wrap it up really quick, is the fact of the matter that, I think this was the first time kids kind of became a part of a community, if that makes sense. Like, obviously, people talk about the idea of playing outside and all that stuff. And don't get me wrong, we did that as kids, but I think we were one of the last generations that combined them both so well together.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
nowadays you don't really see a lot of people playing outside unless they're very, very little. And I think really we would combine it with, okay, we're gonna when we come over, let's go shoot some hoops in the backyard for maybe an hour, and then after that we'll go play some Halo or Call of Duty. and then we can have go get some food after that, and then we can go play some more if we want, and then we say goodnight. It's kind of one of those things. But I think really it built a sense of community unlike any other, really, because these games allowed for so many different types of people to enter certain lobbies, and it was really all just about having fun. You didn't have
Yeah.
have to worry about if I'm doing something
Sweats.
right or not. You didn't have to worry about a lot of different things. You just got to be a kid and have fun. And for me, that was the most nostalgic part of this era of gaming.
Yeah, I do recall going outside, obviously. Like you were saying, we're one of the
Yeah.
last generations to where it was actually a part of our routine to
Mhm.
go outside and go play. But I also remember, Friday after school, telling your friend, "Oh, you wanna come over? I just got that game from Blockbuster,"
Yeah.
or "I just got that game from Gamefly," or whatever, "Come."
Gamefly, holy
Yeah,
cow.
come over, because the new blank just came out, and I have it for my Xbox or my
Yeah.
PlayStation or insert console. So there was also an anticipation, at the end of the school week, to play with your friends, to have a sleepover, to have a LAN
Yeah.
party, things like that.
Exactly. And with LAN party, you just tell your buddy, bring your Xbox, bring a cable, and bring a copy of the game with you and some controllers, and we'll have a fun party.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yep. And so that was the whole thing about the LAN party thing. And you could do that in one room and you set up multiple TVs and such. Yeah, it was work, but it was worth it because now we know we're going to get to play with lots and lots and lots and lots of people. It's not just going to be us four against these people out there. It's going to be like 20 people in a room
Oh,
playing
yeah.
the same game, just sitting maybe a few feet apart from each other, if that.
Yeah, you have some liters of soda that are filled with questionable contents because of how
Sure.
intense, people are getting on their games.
Yeah, and that's what where a lot of cool just things happen. Doritos start to partner with different companies and whatnot, and same with Mountain Dew and a lot of those, and it was really cool and innovative. But
That's so funny, yeah,
yeah,
I
but
forgot about the collaborations.
for sure. But to round out the golden age, I think the golden age is really where gaming was huge for us. But alongside that, during those times, we also have handheld consoles. Now,
Oh, yeah.
unfortunately, I do not have many handheld consoles. I never owned many, but Ramona has owned plenty of them. So, this section I'm going to give over to you, my friend.
All right, I'll try to make this as quick as possible,
For sure.
but of course, this is definitely something that goes back to even the 80s. So, believe it or not, we've had handheld consoles since 1989, beginning with the Nintendo Game Boy. And it basically changed the game because you could take your video game anywhere.
Yeah.
It had a monochrome screen, a long battery, and a super portable design. And one of the first games and actually global hits on the Game Boy was actually Tetris. And
Oh,
we were
yeah.
just talking about how big Tetris is. It
Yeah.
was not only big in the arcades, it was big at home with the at home consoles, but it's also big handheld too.
Yeah.
Um, and then they revitalized and created a colored screen in 1998. So it took them about 10 years to fix all the kinks. And then we get what I grew up playing, the Game Boy Advance.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it introduced the clamshell design with a 32-bit system, so one of the highest bit systems that we see in the past 30 years, and backlit screens.
Oh,
And then
nice.
from there in 2004, we have one of the coolest consoles, in my opinion, the Nintendo DS. And it has a dual screen, it's touchscreen, and it had a stylus. So you had games being introduced such as Nintendogs, Pokemon, Super Mario Bros., Mario Kart DS, and believe it or not, Grand Theft Auto Chinatown, the first and only Grand Theft Auto installation in the Nintendo series. So they didn't really see it do too well. So it's safe to say that that was absolutely the last time that Nintendo delved into Grand Theft Auto. But
Wow.
drum roll, please, or a silent one. Brrr, my favorite handheld of all time, and one of the best handhelds, I think, arguably, is the Sony PlayStation Portable, or as everyone knows it, the
The PSP.
PSP. Exactly. In 2005, the PSP's popularity stemmed from its advanced features, capability for handheld consoles, and it includes powerful graphics. You can actually play movies on the PSP,
Oh yeah.
and it had more multimedia functions such as being able to stream the internet. You could literally go on the internet on your PSP. It was so cool. Obviously, it had to be connected to Wi-Fi, but still, that is too cool. And it actually spawned my love for games like Grand Theft Auto Liberty Cities, the God of War games, Secret Agent Clank, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, Ratchet and Clank, WWE, and the FIFAs.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
I forgot how many of those games came out on the PSP. And the PSP you could
Oh
connect to
yeah.
internet, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. You could surf the web. You could one of the cool things that you could do is say surf the web, and if you had a dock for a USB, you could save a bunch of games and music on that USB,
Yeah.
connect it to the PSP, and there you have infinite games and stuff.
That's really wild. Handhelds, I'm not gonna really add a whole lot because I didn't own a handheld, but that's really crazy. The PSP, I do remember watching movies with some of my friends. He had Spider-Man 2 as well as Sin
Oh,
City on the
okay.
PSP. As well as having a bunch of different games and whatnot. I remember playing occasionally on it, but I never owned one, so obviously I never got the full experience of the PSP. The DS I played occasionally, but the DS was more of just like I had a friend and sometimes we would play the DS and whatnot. So yeah, it was basically that was really my only experience. The only other experience I have with the PSP is or not PSP, the DS was they had an add-on. I don't know if you knew this or not, but they had an add-on as well of Guitar Hero called Guitar Hero on Tour for the DS, and it had
I
like a
did,
little,
yeah.
yeah, there's like a little handheld thing, and
It's a
sometimes
glove.
it's a glove, and
It's
then
a
you have a
glove.
little pick, and you're basically playing ding 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 ding, like that. Is
Oh
how
yeah,
you're
that's a
playing. So
classic.
yeah, that's the only time I played it. But those are the only times I've ever played those. So that's really all I got to add to this section.
Gotcha. Before we actually end this segment, I wanted to just show you guys how unique the PSP cartridges were, or the CDs were. So this is something that you would put, or this is a case that you would put your games in.
Yep.
And see, these are some of my PSP games.
Yeah,
I have another one of these plus a little box of PSP games.
that's
But
wild.
the cartridges, or the CDs, excuse me, they feel like cartridges, you know?
They're in that.
Very unique. I've never seen anything else like
And you
this, you
just
know?
put that whole thing in, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you do. You pop it in. I'll do a video on our story, but
Yep.
these are actually super delicate too. And the thing that sucks is that if you break the outer casing, the plastic outer casing, your game won't work.
Yeah.
So you had to not only protect the CD-ROM, but protect the outer casing of it too.
Wow.
And games like that ran for a pretty penny. Well, at least at the time, they were about $45 each. And now adjusted to inflation, that's about 70 bucks.
That's
No,
wild.
about 60 bucks now just for a game like that, something tiny like that. But it sort of resembles the GameCube tiny CD-ROM.
Yeah, that's pretty wild to think about, going back and looking at all of that and resembling all of those different types of media, it's pretty crazy. But no,
Mhm.
I think that sums up pretty much handhelds pretty well. And all of those consoles basically came out during the golden age as well. So, they were released alongside, the PS2, the Xbox, the 360, all of those consoles. And they were basically just ways you could take your games on the road in a sense, for the
Mhm.
time. But with that, my friend, should we get into our favorite section of these episodes?
Let's do it.
Fun facts and trivia.
Fun
Uh,
facts and trivia.
Fun fact, what a difference. I had to. You gotta add it. You can't.
You
It feels
gotta.
wrong. It feels wrong if I don't. So, yep. So, if you're cool with it, I'll take it away with some fun facts.
Please do it.
Okay. So let's see how much y'all have been paying attention because some of these fun facts and trivia we have covered already in the episode. So let's see how much you've been paying attention. It's pop quiz time in a
Pop quiz,
sense.
exactly.
We already mentioned the first console being the Magnavox Odyssey being released in 72. Groundbreaking for paving the way for modern video game consoles. But I think another groundbreaking thing I can add to this is the fact of the matter that, it really opened up a new way of gaming that didn't rely on just being tangible and having to go to a store and buy the Game of Life or Operation or Sorry or Monopoly or any of those games. It was a way that you could play on your television, and it was a way that you could connect with other people. So really it developed a sense of community. So that's
That's a
another
great point.
groundbreaking thing I can add as well, because
Yeah.
without that console we wouldn't be where we are today, and we wouldn't be making this episode. So
Nope.
the second one is that the Nintendo Game Boy had an impressive run of 14 years, ending its run as the Nintendo GameCube entered the market in 2001. Now, I do want to clarify the GameCube still lived on for 2 more years as it would not be discontinued until 2003. But it's crazy to
Ooh.
think that it started to make its way into the golden age. That's how powerful the Game Boy was.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. That's let me do math. 10, 35, 30, 36 years ago.
Yeah, that's 36 years ago. That's crazy to think about.
Wow.
The number my next one is the Xbox logo green color is attributed to designer Horace Luke, who only had green markers available after the rest of his markers had been stolen.
No way.
Yeah, so apparently the story goes that he was trying to find markers, and apparently some other people, I believe, took those markers, and all he had was that green jelly color, that really light green color that's attributed with Xbox, and that's what he
Wow.
used to make the green X in the logo, and that's how Xbox got its logo.
Oh my gosh.
I know, it's
Oh.
wild. The next one I have is the Wii's active gameplay led to some minor injuries and muscle strain, leading Nintendo to offer stronger wrist straps and even inspiring the term. This is going to be hard for me to say with a straight face. Even inspiring the term Wii-itis. That just sounds wrong. Wii-itis.
Sorry, Mom, I can't go to school today. I have Wii-itis.
I have Wii-itis. Yeah, are you sure about that? Are you sure you want to have Wii-itis? Like that sounds kind of dangerous.
What are
That's
you doing with Wii-itis? You're underage.
Yeah. How do you have Wii-itis at 10 years old?
That is
Oh
too
gosh.
funny.
Okay,
Oh
I
my
got I gotta
gosh.
stop. Stop. I gotta stop. Okay, gotta chill, John. And my last fun fact is early models of the PS5 were backwards compatible with PlayStation 2 games due to the popular market the PS2 had. This went away
Mm.
when the PS3 Slim was released in 2009. And my light died. Perfect time to segue to you. And we're doing the rest of this without my light. So sorry, folks, but that's it.
Actually, funny enough, your lighting is still really good.
Yeah, it is actually pretty good.
Yeah,
All I have is a
yeah.
lamp on in the corner
Oh, well, you have sort of the backlight too.
and the backlight from my window. So
Yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay. So we good. We good.
We're good. We're good.
Okay.
That is crazy. Those are some great fun facts. Let us know if you knew any of those, or let us know if John blew your mind.
Yeah.
And now I have
Blow
five as
my
well.
mind now.
Yeah. Okay, okay. Let's see. Let's see if I can. Let me see if I can blow your guys' minds. Okay. So Mattel Auto Race was one of the first handheld electronic games. It used LED lights to simulate a racing game. No screen, no graphics, just blinking lights and imagination. So think
Wow.
of like a wire board, or even let me see, an electrical board with
Yeah.
wires and lights.
Mhm.
It was pretty much the first handheld game with a microprocessor, so it paved the way for a lot of the portable games that we play today, such as the Nintendo Switch.
Mhm.
That was the first fact. Okay,
Yep.
and second one, we're going to. back to the Nintendo realm, and the Nintendo Game and Watch series from 1980s didn't just introduce portable LCD gaming, it also inspired key design elements used decades later, like dual screen layouts
Yep.
and the clamshell. So, thanks to the Nintendo Game and Watch series, we have the Game Boy, the Nintendo Switch, and the Nintendo DS.
Wow.
And then when Space Invaders hit arcades in 1978, it was so freaking popular that it reportedly caused a shortage of 100 yen coins in Japan. Some
Wow.
yeah, so can you believe it? Some of the banks had to increase coin productions just to meet the demands
That
of
is
the
wild.
gaming machines.
That is actually wild. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's crazy to think about.
imagine your economy being affected so much so that they have to reprint $1 bills or something because of a game, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, okay, my fourth fun fact, almost done here.
Mhm.
Crash Bandicoot from 1996 was created by Naughty Dog as a mascot platformer for the original PlayStation. So it was basically PlayStation's answer to Mario and Sonic. So you
Wow.
have Mario and Sonic, you have both of those rivalries,
Mhm.
but then PlayStation tried to make Crash Bandicoot one of the contenders. But I don't even think it lasted because most people don't even know who Crash Bandicoot is, you
Wow, that's
know?
crazy. That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah, and then my last one is going back to the GoldenEye 007, as John mentioned earlier today. In 1997, it was created for the Nintendo 64, and it was developed by a small team called Rare, most of whom have never made a video game before. So it was their first run with video game making, and seeing how much it changed and impacted the video game realm is huge
Yep.
because it introduced features like aim assist, stealth mechanics,
Yep.
and split screen multiplayer. So think
Wow.
about a video game you currently play right now. Chances are it was inspired by GoldenEye
Oh yeah,
007.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
that actually concludes my fun facts. Now I'll segue over to trivia if you're okay with that, my friend.
Go for it.
Alrighty. So, okay, so I don't know how hard these are when it comes to it, just because I did the research.
Yeah,
So
let's see.
let's see if these stump any of you guys.
All
Okay.
right, cool. Let's do it.
What was the first video game character to have a balloon in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade?
What video game character was the first to have a Macy's? I'm guessing this was in the 90s.
I actually don't have a date for this.
Okay, that's my guess. I'm just gonna ask for a quick hint. Is it a Nintendo character?
It is.
Is it Mario?
Ding, 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 ding.
Yes.
Yep, yep, yep,
Okay,
yep. It
nice.
is Mario. Okay, okay. You got a point there.
Yep, that's one.
Okay. Next question is, which game is widely regarded as the first commercially successful fighting game?
I have two that I want to say.
Okay, remember, commercially successful. Not first, but first commercially successful, okay?
Yeah, that's the thing because both of these are crazy commercially successful. I
Okay.
take it this was a '90s one, of course. I'm guessing.
Uh I believe actually no, a little bit before the 90s.
Okay, little before the '90s. Okay, so
3
so
years.
3 years before the '90s. So it's '80s then. Okay,
Yes,
so
correct.
I'm guessing it's a game that was invented for the Sega.
I believe so. Actually, I don't have
Okay,
what
I'm
console it was
going with
for.
my gut on this one. Is it Street Fighter?
Ding, ding, ding. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, that
Yep.
was just
Yep.
a random guess too. Let's
Two for
go.
two. Two for two. Two for two.
Okay.
Okay. Next question.
Yeah.
Which 1982 game is considered the first open world game due to its free roaming gameplay? And I actually did mention it as an example of what the titles are for a specific game, but we didn't delve into it. So I would not be surprised if it just
Yeah,
glossed over.
it probably went over my head in all honesty. Um, open world game.
Yeah, yeah, it stumped me. I'd never heard of this prior to this episode.
Oh, I'm trying to think what console it was for, or if it was a PC game. That's the
Actually,
thing
I
I'm trying
can
to.
let me go.
Um,
The Atari.
oh, it's an Atari game.
Yeah.
Oh. I yield. I really don't know.
It's called Pitfall.
Okay, Pitfall. Okay,
I don't
you
know
mentioned
anything
it, but
about Pitfall.
I don't either. So that's
Yeah.
probably I would not have gotten that.
Let us know if you guys played Pitfall growing up.
If you did, yeah, then you probably are a lot older than us.
Yes,
So,
yes.
okay,
All right. Question number 4, okay? You're
okay,
2 for 3 right now.
okay.
Which company developed the original Tetris game?
Nintendo.
Actually, it was the Soviet Union.
Oh, what?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
It was actually developed by a gentleman named Alexei Pachitnov. I
okay.
apologize for butchering that name, but it was actually done in Soviet Russia
Wow,
under really no company.
that's crazy. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
okay, that's interesting. Okay,
Okay.
wow, wow,
So
wow.
we're how many did you guys get? Let us know. Send us a DM or comment on our YouTube video or on our Instagram posts. And the best-selling video game, okay, of all time. Can you tell me what that is?
Best-selling video game of all time. It has to be from the golden age, right?
No,
It's not. Okay.
I
So
don't believe so.
it's a
No,
little earlier then.
no, later.
Oh, it's later.
Yeah,
So it's a newer game then.
yeah.
Best-selling video game of all time. It's got to be a PlayStation game. That's the only thing I can think of. Or maybe a cross-platform game.
Is that your answer?
No, 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 no. I'm trying to think of the title. I'm trying to think like okay, I'm taking a shot in the dark. This is gonna be wrong.
Okay.
Call of Duty.
I wish it's Minecraft.
Minecraft. Okay, I've never
It's
played
Minecraft.
Minecraft, so I
I
wouldn't
haven't
know.
either. I
Wow,
haven't either, but apparently it's the best-selling video game of all time.
that is insane.
And then do you know what the best-selling franchise is of all time?
Best-selling franchise. Obviously, it's not the answer I just gave, so I'm not even gonna go with that again. Um,
Well, I wouldn't say you're wrong.
it's Call of Duty.
Oh wait, no, so sorry. No, so sorry.
Okay.
I was thinking of another
Oh,
answer that you gave.
okay. I was gonna say it's no way it's Call of Duty. It's up there, but it's not the best. I don't think. Best-selling franchise. It's
Just did a movie about it
they did just do. I feel like okay.
like 2 years ago.
Is it Uncharted?
No, 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 Mario.
Why didn't I go with my
The
gut? Of course,
Mario
Mario.
franchise.
Super Mario. Okay.
Yep. And that actually concludes my questions.
Okay, sounds good. I will go into my trivia now. Great trivia, by the way. You got me with that last one.
Yeah.
You got me thinking. I was thinking too much. That was the problem. So, first question. This is one we talked about. Again, let's see if you all at home have been paying attention. What was the first console to offer online play?
Oh, I hate my memory.
Did you really
Ah,
forget?
I literally forgot.
Oh my gosh.
Oh
Okay,
my
let's see if
gosh.
you
Hold
can
on,
get
hold
it
on, hold
then.
on. Okay, online gameplay.
First console. Very first
Pl-
console.
uh, PlayStation 1? I don't know. I can't remember.
The
Negative 10 points.
the Xbox.
Oh my gosh, Xbox Live, god dang it!
Yeah,
Ah,
Xbox Live was a pioneering online service allowing players to compete and interact online, though it was initially a fee-based service. So yes, Xbox Live was the first.
how funny. Heckin' heck.
Yep.
Can't rely on anything. Not even myself.
What game was given to anyone who brought a Wii?
So there were two games. Was it Wii Sports?
Ding 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 ding
Okay.
ding.
Because I also had Wii
Yes.
Play, and I didn't know if that came with the game you're
No,
giving,
Wii
right?
Play never came with it. Wii
Okay,
Sports was the one that came with it. Yes,
that
Wii
makes sense.
Sports. Nintendo users who purchased a Wii um were given a copy of Wii Sports in the box so they didn't have to buy games right away. So that game came in the box.
Okay.
Yep. And then number 3, What was a major selling point in the PS3 that no other console at the time offered and its competitors would eventually add?
Blu-ray compatibility?
There you are. Ding, 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 ding.
Noise.
Yes, the PlayStation 3 supported Blu-ray, offering games on Blu-ray format disc as well as supporting Blu-ray movies. Eventually, the Xbox Series X and Xbox One would also add Blu-ray compatibility to their systems as well.
Oh, very cool, very
And
cool.
Nintendo said, "We don't allow you to play DVDs. We are simply game only."
Ah, okay, okay.
Yep, no Nintendo console to this day has allowed DVDs to be or movies to be played on their consoles.
I guess I never thought about that. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, Xbox would eventually come around and they would eventually add it. And my last one, because I only had four, um, is what was a major issue with the Xbox 360 that led to so many consoles being recalled and addressed on the Slim and S models? This is a giveaway, I feel like.
The Ring of Death.
Yes. Ding, 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 ding. The Red Ring of Death. The Red Ring of Death was a major issue with the original Xbox 360 modules in which soldier joints would crack due to thermal stress and heat retention. The original model of the 360 only had one heat export, and it was at the back of the console. And the console could either be stood up or laid down, and oftentimes the heat would rise rather than go out this way, which is why
Mm.
Sony's PlayStation 3 had it better because of the fact that on many of the other models it would deflect it from going up and going this way, which is why on the rest of the place on the Xbox models there were many fans inside to cool the system. And then when the Xbox One came out, it had a port on top so it could go in three different directions.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay.
Yep. Well, that is all my fun facts and trivia I have. Really, really good section. Really, really, really good
Absolutely.
one. We
Our
did
favorite for sure.
our favorite for sure. Absolutely. And to wrap things up, we have the final segment, which is segment 5, 2010s to the present. And
Yes.
there are a lot of consoles that have come out since then, but we're going to touch on a few of these ever so, I don't want to say briefly, but ever so, we're going to touch on them and we're going to talk about them because really, as of this era, there haven't been many new updates, if that makes sense. A
Mm.
lot of it's kind of similar. I know PlayStation had the biggest ones, but Xbox unfortunately didn't have that big of one. So, um, the new era of consoles starting in 2010, around that era, were the release of the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and the Wii U.
Mhm.
Of all of those, the Wii U did not really perform that well. I mean, it was there, it had some fun games and stuff, but aside from that, it didn't really perform well because it was kind of just a rehash of the Wii with now a handheld port. Is
Yeah.
really all it was. The Xbox One did all right, but it declined very heavily in sales just because of the fact that Xbox, all they really added were just some new ports as well as just a few new games, and then every other game you could get on pretty much any other console.
Mm.
I think the one that did the best, and you probably would agree with me, is probably the PlayStation 4.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the PlayStation 4, I have a PlayStation 4 actually, and I love it. I think it's a great console.
Yeah.
I think they did a good job with trying to up the ante, and a lot of really good games came out in that run. And the only thing that kind of sucked was PlayStation 4 pulled the plug on backwards compatibility entirely.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah,
kind of
they
like,
did.
"Yep." They were kind of like, "Yep, you buy our new product, say goodbye to the PlayStation 3 and its games, or else hold on to it
Oh my
and
gosh.
whatnot." Whereas Xbox One did have backwards compat and does have backwards compatibility with
Mm.
Xbox 360 games and even some Xbox original games.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, a lot some of those games include some of the biggest games known right now, and that's Fortnite and Rainbow Siege 6.
Yeah, Fortnite and Rainbow Siege 6, being big ones, and it really upped the ante now. And also, it's not like Call of Duty where you get an infinite amount of lives. They up the realism with Rainbow Six. You only get one life.
Something cool about early 2000s gaming. or before 2000s is that you didn't really have an audience, and now post 2010 you can stream, you can make it literally your
Yes.
career.
Yeah, you can. I mean, you have platforms like Twitch and even YouTube Live, which allow you to
Mhm.
live stream games, and you can do a lot of really innovative things in that field.
Yeah.
And now there's even Twitch streamers that are making millions of dollars, even, some of the highest streamers of all time, and whatnot. Now you can make gaming a career, and you can watch
Mhm.
other people play games that beforehand you just had to wait until they played the game and then upload their gameplay to YouTube.
Yep, exactly. And now the most recent gaming consoles we have are what? Like the Xbox Series X, we have the PS5, now
And
the
the
Nintendo Switch
And the
2.
yeah, and even with the Nintendo Switch, that was a game changer. I think that's probably the most innovative console we have now, a console that can be both a handheld and a regular standard console.
Absolutely. But what's funny is, and I saw a video about this the other day, that the Wii U was the blueprint for the Nintendo Switch. The only
Yeah,
difference is that you could take off the controllers.
absolutely. And that's the cool part too. You have the Joy-Cons, you can play like this, like on a
Hmm.
handheld console, or you can take them off and you can play like
Like a
Wii
Wii.
controllers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
whatnot. And you can even form them now into a controller and have an actual controller and whatnot, which is cool. So if you want to play like
Hmm.
Mario Kart 8, or if you want to play Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, you can
Yeah.
do that as well. And I think the Switch is really was the game changer. I mean, like the Wii was the game changer for the 2000s. The Switch is the game changer for the modern era.
Also trying to bring back nostalgia. I'm currently subscribed to their Nintendo Switch Online Nintendo Classics games. And if you're subscribed to that, it's $60 a year. Not a promo, obviously, but $60 a year, and you can play games from the GameCube, from the NES, from the Sega Genesis. So if you're super into nostalgic games, Nintendo's actually giving you an outlet to play those without having to purchase another console.
Absolutely, and I think that that's really cool as well. The fact of the matter that they're allowing that to happen is cool and whatnot. When looking at the rise of pricing for games, you have to ask the question, is it still worth it even to buy consoles? Because now the thing is you have PC gaming rising again, but in a whole different way. Instead of having games solely made for the PC, now people who play games like Call of Duty, like Rainbow Six, like Fortnite, can purchase a Stream Pass for something called Steam. And Steam is really cool because it's a library of games that you can just purchase essentially. And with that, um, you can have a whole library of games that you can just play. And yeah, some of them you do have to buy, but like at the same time, you can play the games, you can have as much fun, and you have a PC and you can play pretty much any game without having to have the specific version for a specific console or anything. And I think that's really kind of neat. And also now with Xbox, you have Game Pass, which allows you pretty much access
Mm.
to the Xbox's entire library of games, including the Halos and all of those. I think those are really cool. And yeah, I think, it's just I'll put it this way. I think gaming is still worth it. I don't know if purchasing consoles is worth it. That's where I'm at. Now, unless you're a PlayStation gamer, then I think PlayStation's going to live for quite a while.
I think if you collect consoles, it makes sense if you
That
have
too.
a lot of consoles,
Yeah,
but they don't make enough changes in order for it to be worth it for me, in my opinion. Like,
fair.
there aren't enough changes from the Nintendo Switch 1 to the Nintendo Switch 2 that make
Sure.
me compelled to actually go out there and spend almost $500 on it or however much it is.
Oh, absolutely. I 100% agree with you. I think it's that exact same thing. It's kind of like, when you look at that, it's kind of like, yeah, I could buy it, but they're not being as innovative as they were at one time. They're not really
Exactly.
trying to look at what's the new thing. They're just trying to think of how can we just keep up and how can we just stay alive in the business.
Yep,
And
exactly.
unfortunately, they're just kind of rehashing what they've done, and so that's the
Yeah.
unfortunate thing. Yeah, and I'll admit I do have an Xbox Series X. It was gifted to me, and I do love it. I mean, it does allows for now that even allows for 4K Blu-ray players, and I know
Mm.
the PS5 does the same. But really, if you think
Mhm.
of it, they're just kind of the same console, just two different companies.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. When it
Except
comes to
with
PlayStation, I'll keep buying, but when it comes to
sure.
justifying, like, say, Nintendo Switch 2, it's a little bit harder for me.
Exactly, 100%. And I think that's why PC gaming's taking off because PC you just pay for that. Yeah, it's going to be like $1,000 investment, but you pay for that. You get a Steam subscription and there you go, you're set,
Yeah,
you
I've
know?
also seen a lot of YouTubers and Instagram people enjoying PC because they can actually build it from the bottom up. You know, they can customize it any way that they want. Whereas a console, you buy it and it is how it is, really.
Exactly, I think that's exactly another point that's really huge when you look at that and whatnot. Yeah, I think really gaming is kind of going back to more PC days, and I think most people who game now are in it for the battle royale type of syndrome. That's the most
Yeah,
popular thing now. Games like
currently,
Fortnite
yeah.
and a lot of those things. Now there are
Well, the
still
new Call of Duty is basically Fortnite.
in a sense, but
Yeah.
thankfully Black Ops, I think 6 or 7 is trying to go back to its original
Mm.
roots,
Yeah.
and so that's kind of nice to see Black Ops trying to go back to its roots because Black Ops originally was a historical set game, set during like the Vietnam War, the Bay of Pigs, and a lot of those different things. So no, I think that's really cool that they're trying to go back to that as well.
Yeah, yeah, but I would say this is a really solid episode because we got to, be nostalgic about the things that, we grew up on, but also geek out on the things that we currently love and hope to continue loving in the future.
Absolutely, my friend. This was a great episode. I think we did
Yeah.
really good. And to tell you the truth, I just have one final question for you before I let you take us out.
Do it.
Do you think consoles will still be a thing in 20 to 25 years, or do you think PC gaming is going to completely take over?
Oh man. To be completely honest, I think consoles and PC will sort of team together
Ooh,
and it'll be those
yeah,
tangible platforms versus VR.
that would be cool. Now, that would
I
be cool. That
Yeah,
would be cool because really, if you team those two up, now you got many options. You
exactly.
have and maybe you can even play on both the PC and the console. You have something that's for everyone. And
Mhm.
then VR is not necessarily for everyone. So people get very
No.
heavily motion sick like me, and after a while it gets to be too much, on the
Mm.
brain and stuff. So yeah, no, I could see that. I think consoles will always be there. I just don't know how popular they'll be just because of the rise
Mm.
of PC gaming and realizing that it's kind of a one-time buy. I mean, you still have to buy stuff for it. You still have to buy
Yeah.
add-ons and a lot of other things. Not all the games are going to be free, but I think more
Mhm.
people are willing to go that route because it's an investment and then it's cheaper in the long run. Whereas consoles, you're always paying kind of for something and you're always paying kind of a fee, if that makes sense.
You're right. No, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of where I see it for sure. But no, I think this was a great episode, my friend. This was really
Yes,
good.
yes. But I wanted to thank you guys for tuning in. It's
Yes,
been another episode, another great episode of the Rewind Room. Today we took a
absolutely.
walk down memory lane, revisiting the consoles that shaped entire generations. Our parents,
Absolutely.
our generations, and the generations to come. It shaped us along the way.
Yeah.
Don't forget to follow our podcast for more nostalgic trips like this. We normally post every first Friday of the month, but since the first Friday of this month was the 4th of July, we actually ended up taking that Friday off. So you
Yep.
will be seeing this the second week of July, but we're usually posting the first week of the first Friday of the month. You can
Yep.
join us wherever you get your podcasts. Also on YouTube, if you're watching us right here, hello, like,
What's up?
subscribe, and press that little button to get notifications. That way you can watch John and me record each episode. But like I said, make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode.
Absolutely.
And like I said, every first Friday of the month, do
Yep.
not miss out.
Absolutely.
And that leads me to my favorite line of the entire podcast. I'm Ramona,
I am John.
and we will catch you on the rewind.
We'll catch you on the rewind, folks. Take care.